Okay, I got the red smoke.
Gun runs north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Join Montana?
Yeah, dude. So I hit this. What is this called? Cliff Kill?
That would be a sweet day, but it's Kill Cliff.
I'm from South Carolina, man. What do you expect? Kill Cliff. I took one sip and I'm wide awake now. I'm good to go.
It's not actually an energy drink. So they make...
Shit, I'm fucking that all up.
That's okay.
It's delicious.
It is good, right? It's. I describe it as it's the duct tape of mixers. You can mix this with any type of alcohol, and it's delightful.
Really?
Now, they make a couple different flavors. This one is good for anything that is clear. Well, yeah, you could probably put it in tequila, too, if you had a good tequila. But vodka and the Recover, the orange Recover, is lights out. But you need to be careful because it tastes just like this.
That's bad news.
And then you wake up and you're like, who's shit in my pants? And you don't know who is shit.
Yeah, exactly. I've been there. I quit drinking 8 years ago because of that. But my wife still drinks. I give it to her and get fucked up.
Yeah, so they do make a energy drink, but it's called Ignite. This one is awesome. It's it's as healthy for you as something in this shape of a can can be. Right? There's some artificial stuff in here, but I've been using this forever. They were actually my first sponsor. When I got out of the military, I started skydiving and base jumping the way I wanted to, as opposed to the way the military said I was allowed to. And because it was founded by an ex-SEAL, and they were my first sponsor, and I've been with them ever since.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I actually do really enjoy it. So it's good stuff.
Kill Cliff is good stuff.
I can't get a precise description, though, as to where the name came from. I did hear a story about a toothbrush and an asshole and a guy named Cliff, but I can't confirm. Which, if I think I know how that story went, I would kill that motherfucker, too.
We had a story of some guys. I don't know if this is going to resemble a toothbrush and an asshole, but it has an asshole in the story.
Perfect.
We had some guys at a firehouse, and when I was a firefighter downtown in Charleston, this was before my time, the old guys told me that they had a guy come in off duty. He was drunk. He went upstairs to go to sleep, and he was so out of it. The crew went upstairs and cracked some eggs, and they stood over him with their dicks out, and they broke all these eggs in his ass. And then they started waking him up, and the guy woke up, and he felt all these cold eggs in his ass, and he thought they all raped him. So it's pretty nasty. But
here's the thing. You and I have a sense of humor where I find that to be hilarious.
That's good, right?
People right now are like, what in the actual fuck is this episode going to be about?
This is going to be bad. I don't condone that behavior anymore.
I do condone that behavior. But it has to be in the right
wink.
setting. You need to know that person well.
Oh, yeah. You couldn't just do that to a guy you didn't know.
You'd end up in prison. You'd be in prison for sure.
All my friends now, they're like, dude, if you did the stuff you did when on the job now, you'd be in jail.
Did you get hazed when you were in the military?
You know what? I almost did, but I told it at the time I was a Lance Corporal, and I was a private first class, and I got promoted to Lance Corporal, and we had this big guy named Tanga. He was like a caveman, and he
Tanga,
he was every bit of the word caveman, dude. He looked like he was 35, and we were 19. You know how when you're young, you're 19, and your senior guys, they seem so much older, but they're really not.
They're just 21.
Yeah, exactly.
They can drink legally.
That's right. That's it. And he came up to pin my Lance Corporals on me, and I told him, I was like, fuck no, you're not doing that. Because they were doing it back then, how all the recon guys were taking.
Pounded in.
Yeah, you're pounding it in. I was like, you're not fucking doing it to me. He goes, you want to walk around here like you're all hard and you won't let somebody do that? I was like, I'm not pretending to be hard. I'm not letting you fucking do that, though.
So
he hated me.
There was an essence of hazing when I was in. I joined in 96, got out in 2013. And I'm curious because I don't know if there still is that aspect of hazing. There's the right way to do it where it's based in what I would describe love and positive reinforcement. Perhaps there's a lesson there too.
Right.
And then there's I hate this son of a bitch and I'm going to try to hurt him. One of them is actually, I would say, useful, but I don't know in the modern climate if they would allow it.
I don't think so. And one of the big ones, and this is silly. I mean, this is nothing compared to like guys probably from Vietnam era and all that. But when you would promote to NCO, this did happen. They come and Charlie horse you with their knees. Everybody, it's called the blood stripe in the Marine Corps, where we get that stripe down our dress pants. So they just come up and they bury their knee right into the side of your hip. Or your
I didn't know
thigh.
that. I thought that was just on all the Class A's.
No, man. That's when you promote to corporal.
And I am a rusty on my Marine Corps ranks. Is that an E4?
E4, yeah. You're
okay.
Right. Yeah. So you're an NCO, so you get your blood stripe on your dress uniform. That's why they do that.
Let's be honest.
The
Marine Corps Class A's.
Smoking, right?
They're good. Have you seen the Navy enlisted dress whites or blues?
Beautiful.
No, they're not.
You're talking about the whites that you guys have?
I'm talking no. So you're thinking Top Gun whites,
Yeah, I'm
with the
thinking-
choker. I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
the enlisted one
Oh,
with
no.
the flap that goes over the back.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
the 13 buttons, which becomes problematic when you're out like drinking and you need to take a piss because behind those 13 buttons, there's these overlaying flaps that the buttons go through.
It's a pain.
And I've gone out drinking one time in my dress whites when I was enlisted. And I had to buy a new set the next day because apparently
You pissed yourself?
No, this is the Guinness that I was drinking was more on my dress whites. And let's just be honest, that whites show everything.
That would be so hard to go out and have fun in that.
There was a point in the evening where my bucket of fucks went empty.
Yeah, it
so
got
I didn't
empty.
really give a fuck anymore. And it's like, cheers. And I think I had like a good amount of salsa on it. There was a burrito like basically in the pocket.
That's great.
Yeah, I cleaned it with a garbage can, and then I just invested in a new set of dress whites.
I've been out for so long. I got out in 2000, so I got out, and but what I remember is we deployed 2 times on 2 different med floats, and all I remember was the dungarees. That's the real uniform. That and all those different colored shirts they would wear because I was on LPH.
Oh,
And they would-
so like
they
a
would wear-
khaki shirt, you mean?
No, they would wear like a green shirt. Flight deck crew. Would wear a
Oh, I
certain
don't know
color
any of that
shirt,
stuff,
and we're
but I know
like,
what
"Look
you're
at all
talking
these
about."
Fucking colors. What is all of this?
Well, it makes sense to them.
To them, yeah. To us, it confused the shit out of us.
I rode an aircraft carrier from Guam to Australia, and we had access to one of the, what do they call it? The superstructures, I guess, that's above the flight deck. And I would go up there and I would just watch.
The crow's nest, maybe.
It might be.
Yeah.
I know I was the most junior personnel there, and I just kept to myself and kept my mouth shut. But yeah, there was red and green and blue and khaki and
Yeah.
yellow, and I was just watching that whole symphony play itself out. Watching those airplanes take off and land.
It's cool, right?
Holy shit. At nighttime, when it's just you see sparks, you like hear it coming, and then it's like controlled explosion in front of you, and then
See, they would lock us down. We weren't allowed to go on the flight deck or obviously when the helicopters were landing because we were on helicopter carriers. But every once in a while, they would take us up there and PT us in gas masks, and we would have to run up and down the ship. And we're like, this is fucking stupid. So when the ship would go up, essentially you're running uphill. And then when it go down, now you're running downhill. You're trying not to run off the end of it. It was pretty interesting.
why the gas mask?
Exactly. They're like, you could face this. We're like, we're not facing nothing. It's some shit. We're going to die anyway.
That's the beauty of military training. It can be argued that it makes sense in the moment, but most of it is completely nonsensical.
I look at everything we learned. I'm like, I don't understand where this applies. I just don't.
Why'd you decide to join?
Long story short, I always wanted to be in the Marine Corps. My family, all the men in my military were different branches, either Army or Air Force. And I was stationed, I was right down the street from Marine Corps Boot Camp Paris Island.
Okay.
So I was exposed to that a lot. We played Little League football over there. We would play against them. So,
On Paris Island?
Yeah, yeah. So I would see the drill instructors smoking recruits out there and at 8 years old. And, I mean, they would just be getting in their ass. And this was early, 80s? So it was a little different than probably is now. And I just remember being drawn to it from an early age. I was very intrigued by it. And then when I got in high school, I saw that my life was heading nowhere. And I was kind of a fuck-up. And I was class clown and all of that. And I think my dad was pretty pissed off that I thought class clown was this wonderful accomplishment. And so to show him I could be something, I said, you know what? I'm going to show you, buddy. So I went in the Marine Corps. And I joined the fucking infantry.
Did you know you were going to go into the infantry?
Oh,
or-
yeah. Since I was a kid. So I grew up out in the woods, and I was always playing out there in the woods. Here I am.
South Carolina the whole time?
Yep, South Carolina the whole time. Lower southeastern region, South Carolina. And it's just something I always wanted to do.
How was the boot camp experience? Because my only experience with Marine Corps boot camp is Full Metal Jacket.
It's just like that. I don't even need to say anything. That is what it. No, just totally. I could quote that movie line for line. We used to watch it all the time, but it wasn't anything like that. The drill instructors weren't as hands on as that movie was.
There was some creative, as there are in anything that involves a camera.
Sure,
There were some creative liberties taken.
right. Like I know you're a fan of Navy SEAL with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
right?
documentary.
Yeah, and it's actually just like the real thing, right?
Even more so. Yeah.
So, boot camp for me was crazy because growing up there, I knew the entire base. And the first thing they do in Marine Corps boot camp, they bring you in on these buses late at night. They try to disorient people so you don't know where you are. They make you feel like this base is huge, but it literally is the size of this fucking table. Like it's not
tiny.
that big. Yeah, it's crazy. I knew everywhere. I knew where we were at all times, and I had all this
You
liberty.
had an advantage.
Bro, let me tell you something. It was hard because I grew up right across the river. And then to make matters worse, my girlfriend at the time, we broke up right before boot camp. Her father was a staff sergeant. He was one of the range staff NCOs. He hated me because I told her mama to kiss my ass right before I went to boot camp.
This is not a good strategy so far.
Not at all. And so my second day in boot camp, he found me,
Oh, no.
found my drill instructors, and they tried to kill me for 13 weeks. I mean, it was bad for me. It was tough. And that's what kind of, through life, I realized, I was like, dude, I can get through anything. These guys would try to smoke check me every single chance they had. And I realized, I'm like, all right, they're not going to kill me. This is making me stronger. And it was actually kind of fun looking back. I don't want to do it again by any means.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
a
wasn't,
unique experience, though.
it wasn't a walk in the park for me at all. I mean, I was singled out very early in boot camp. And it was known who I was. I thought I was just going to kind of hide and slide, but no.
Which should be the goal of anybody. Here's advice for anybody listening who's considering military service. If people who are in charge know your name, it's generally a bad thing. You
Yes.
should aim to be the gray man, in my opinion.
Yes. When
It's
you
like-
graduate, they're like, who the fuck is this?
When I was in the third phase in Buds, like we're on San Clemente Island getting ready to graduate in weeks, an instructor came up to me and said, "Are you in this class?" I was like, "Fuck yes."
You did it right, dude. You did it the right way.
He's like, "Have you been here the whole time?" I was like, "Who y'all, Instructor Gutierrez?"
That's
He's
right.
like, "Okay," and just went on with his day. I'm like, "I've successfully completed as the gray man."
Dude, he's going to like, this guy's going to be a hell of a warrior. Nobody even knew he was here.
It's just better. In boot camp, if they know your name, it's either because you're in a leadership position or you've done something wrong consistently
Yep.
and you're about to get fucked up. Or in Buds, if they knew your name, it was actually the same thing. As an instructor, because I went back as an instructor, if I knew your name, it's because you were either in a leadership position and I had to interface with you,
Yep.
or I had it out for you.
That's right.
Neither of those are really awesome. Not optimal.
It sucked, man. I do remember crying. I don't like to admit this. I do remember crying in my bed one night. It's not something I like to admit, but look, hey, I'm secure with who I am. I remember thinking, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it was a couple weeks in. I mean, they were riding my ass hard. So
There were people who cried in my boot camp class as well. It was a very interesting
well, hang on.
collection, but
I didn't cry openly so everybody can hear it. Like
I don't think these
sobbing.
people meant to either. They should have done it in the shower where nobody can tell you're crying, right? That's where men
like
cry.
that Motown song. Like,
Fuck.
I wish it would rain. He's talking about going outside when it's raining so nobody could see him crying.
You know, I grew up working for my dad on a construction site where it was rough. I grew up around men acting like
Men.
fucking children, mostly, which was what men are,
Yeah.
children. It was super hard work physically. I get to boot camp and, people are yelling at you a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is normal, not a big deal. And I knew I wanted to go down the steel pipeline. So I kind of expected it to be challenging. We learned how to march in full clothes because most people in the military, we're not doing a lot of time on the rifle range. It's just not a core competency that Navy people have to have. But you look around and there were people who were on an airplane for the first time coming to boot camp who had never been yelled at before.
Never.
That was a revelatory experience for them. And they were crying themselves to sleep. There were people who got their way out of Navy boot camp by pissing in their bed.
Dude, I tell people this all the time. That happened with us too. We had guys who would, they tell you in Parris Island, back then, I don't know how it is now. I can't speak for these guys now, but they tell you back then, you're leaving here graduating Marine or you're leaving here in a body bag. And they make you believe that.
Yeah.
But there was one secret way out. Somebody figured out. You
Piss
piss
the
in your
bed.
bed, you're fucking gone.
Yeah.
I had a guy in the fleet. My roommate, he actually ended up pissing the bed. So I don't know how he got through Marine Corps boot camp and infantry training for 8 weeks. But when he got into the fleet, he couldn't stop pissing his pants. He got kicked out of the Marine Corps. Our gunny,
I think he might have wanted to be pissing his pants.
maybe, maybe. But our gunny was walking by one day, and I fucking got so much pine soil in our barracks, and I had his mattress outside, and our gunny goes, "Howze, what are you doing?" I go, I don't say the guy's name, but it's like, he fucking pissed the bed, and he said, he did what? And the next thing I know, he was gone.
Yeah, I don't know why I wonder why that particular activity is such a disqualifying factor so quickly.
I think because you look at the way we, as Marines, when we live on ship, close quarters, it's very
Just unsanitary?
unsanitary, yeah. I mean, we had 400 guys in one berthing area, so,
That's gnarly.
but not everybody goes in the infantry, not everybody's stuck on a ship, it's
Yeah.
just a small percentage. So, yeah, I don't know. But somebody figured it out, and they're like, hey, I'm going to hose this place down, I'm getting out of here.
Boot camp was a trip. It was
You guys go in Chicago, right?
Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And, I'm thinking about how you were describing how they make it seem like it's a small base. The number of buildings we went to were very few. And we just marched around all the time, like chow hall, classroom, back to the barracks. Yeah, you thought it was really small, and then you realize later on, because there are people who go to their occupational schools like literally across the street. The base is massive, but we didn't have access to any of that stuff. It was very interesting.
Neat to look back years later at that.
I didn't get a whole lot out of Navy boot camp. I got the rank structure, how to fold my underwear and T-shirts in a unique fashion, which
You still do it that way?
I do. Goddamn right.
See, you got something
Fucking
out of it.
knife cutting edge on my tighty whities, which I don't wear. Tighty
Mine are
whities.
thrown in a fucking pile now. It's like, fuck it.
That's a different type of unique storage system. I do that sometimes as well when I don't feel like folding. But yeah, rank, some uniform stuff, which didn't serve me well at all. I think I wore a uniform 7 times in 17 years. It was interesting. At most of the classes I was checked out. They're talking about the history of this ship, or I do remember the best video we watched was Snapback, the deadly shipmate. Did they make you guys watch that?
No, man, we didn't have movie night in boot camp.
It was essentially these ropes that hold ships down. If you put too much tension on them, they will snap and come back and cut people in half.
Cut people in half, yeah.
So I remember that.
Really?
Snapback, the deadly shipmate.
Oh, shit. I'll tell you what I took from boot camp, man. Watch the snapback. I think the one thing I took from boot camp is I always step off on my left foot now. Because they
to begin the marching?
Yeah, they teach you in Marine Corps boot camp, your left foot is your kill foot. So if I ever have to kill somebody, I guess it's going to be with my left foot. But even
Why your left foot?
I don't know. That's they call it your kill foot. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm right-legged, man. Like, I do everything. My right leg's my power leg. But I even put my socks on my left sock and then my left foot, my left boot first, always. That's all I got from it.
At least you got that.
Got something. Just like you got folding your underwear. So.
Yeah. So you did 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
What did you know that it was going to be 4 and go, or were you thinking about staying longer?
So I always wanted to be a drill instructor because I grew up around Parris Island, and I was in ROTC in high school, and I was the drill instructor of the little platoon we had, and I really liked it. I liked commanding the marching and all of that. So when I was going to get out of Marine Corps, I really thought about re-enlisting heavily, but then I just didn't because I wanted to go back home. I knew there were other chapters in my life that I wanted to fulfill.
Where'd you get based after boot camp?
I was Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Okay, so not too far.
No, man, 6 hours away.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to be a drill instructor, but then I was like, man, I got all these other things I want to do in life. And at a early age, I said, if I commit to 4 more years, I'm 8 deep. And then how do you walk away from it after 8? And then I was afraid, well, I'll do 4 more after that. And before I know it, my entire life will be United States Marine Corps. Plus, the other thing is, the only thing that interested me was the infantry. I didn't really see the Marine Corps outside of the infantry other than being a drill instructor. And I knew, all right, if I go to the drill field, I'm going to come back to the infantry. But you don't see a lot of old dudes in the infantry. You just don't. Some guys will come back to it.
That stands to reason, actually.
But I remember we didn't see old guys. You didn't see 20-year infantrymen. And I didn't want to be that first sergeant later who was sent down to motor pool of motor T. That just didn't excite me. So I was like, I'm going to get out. I decided I'm going to get out. I'm going to be a police officer, fireman. I'm going to try all the shit that I wanted to do. And life hit me head on.
Yeah, I haven't made it all the way through the book, but I was looking through some of the stories of your time as a police officer, some of your stories, time as a firefighter, and then comedy and the gallows humor. And the one thing that I think saves us all. But I'll let you, fire away, man. Talk about that transition and what happened with it, because it's fascinating for sure.
So it's just a matter of how deep you want to get with it. I
think there's 10 hours of footage left on these cameras.
Okay, 10 hours of footage. Let's go. I see you got your coffee.
Oh, yeah.
So I started out at early age. I was fascinated with the fire department as well because I went to school right across the street from the firehouse. So
Were you fascinated with the fire department or lighting shit on fire?
No, man, I wasn't an arsonist. So.
Okay, because I hear sometimes firefighters are arsonists.
It's a lot of times. You'd be surprised. No, man, I could give a shit about the fires initially. You know what I liked, man? I saw the brotherhood in the firehouse.
The community.
Dude, those guys were ball busters. I was in 6th grade, and I would walk over to use their snack machine, and they would fuck with me. And they'd prank me, and they were pranking each other. They were always throwing water on each other, just fucking spraying people with barbecue sauce. They were just having fun, and in my mind, I was like, these guys get paid to do this. This is what I want to do.
Professional jackassery.
That's it. And every once in a while, you got to face a little bit of danger, but who cares, right? So I, at an early age, I was drawn to it. At 15 years old, I got to go on my first emergency call. I write about that in my book. And it was exciting because I was just hanging out at the firehouse on a summer day, July 9th of 1993. and guy runs out of the station. He goes, "Hey man, jump on the truck. You want to go?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So you never forget going on your first call.
Oh, I bet.
Lights and sirens going to your first call, and the reason that call sticks with me is because that was the first time I experienced it in the line of duty death with a firefighter.
Oh shit!
That was my first call.
What happened?
So it wasn't in the line of duty. He was on the way home from work, and a concrete truck barreled over his car on a bridge. Ooh. And I talk about this in depth in my book, but since we only have 10 hours left, I'll get to the point. They were backed up in traffic on a bridge, and this concrete truck barrels over this hump and just drove right over this guy, Sammy Singleton.
You're talking about the spinning.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's
the big
some
mixer
gross
truck.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he went right over the top of this guy's car, and he was sandwiched in there. And at 15 years old, I was actually working the scene with these guys, not in gear, but I was handing them what we call.
You were there to assist.
I was about from me to you away, handing them cribbing to help support the vehicle because they were trying to get the concrete truck up to pull Sammy's car out. And when they all realized he was a firefighter, it's just like a military folks, that's brotherhood. And they're all breaking down crying. And it's a very just somber experience.
Was he still alive?
No, he was crushed.
I was going to say.
Fuck, he was very badly messed up. But yeah, at 15, I experienced that. And I talk about a lot of trauma in my life dating back to early childhood. I lost 2 friends to gunfire. I lost 1 friend to gunfire. The other friend, his father, who was our baseball coach, shot his son, shot his mother in the face, shot his grandmother in the face, and then turned the gun on himself and blew his brains out. That was my Little League baseball coach, and I was very close with them as well.
Fuck.
So this stuff starts very early for me, and I didn't realize at what a young age how this was programming my mind to trauma. Now, my time in the military was nothing like yours. I did 4 years. I got out. We deployed, but our shit was fun. We went.
I bet you our experiences were very similar.
Very similar.
Pre 9/11.
Yep.
Because we would train, and my first deployment was to Japan.
And the things that went on, I mean, it's just the fuckery that went on is amazing. It was a wonderful experience, right? But I got out before all of the big stuff happened, and then I went on with my life. But what happened with me is I was already accustomed to being exposed to copious amounts of trauma, things that I wasn't really ready for, I didn't realize. So when I got out of the Marines, I went back to my hometown. I become a firefighter, and I got hired. I went to the police academy or fire academy. I almost got kicked out of the fire academy because I was playing pranks on people. So this goes back
appropriate.
to what you were saying, right?
Yeah,
what you were saying about guys that they come to boot camp. They've never been really yelled at or anything. That same thing was going on in the fire academy. These guys weren't exposed to the firehouse fuckery that I was. They just signed up, got a job, and they knew they wanted to be firemen. Well, I get there, I'm already full-blown prank mode. I'm pouring water in people's boots, putting ketchups in their helmets. So guys are losing their minds. They're not used to being pranked like that. They're going to the instructor complaining. They know it's me by this time. So I almost got kicked out multiple times.
Going to the instructor and complaining.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that.
One of my favorites was I used to augment free fall courses in Arizona.
Okay.
And when other instructors were out, I would take their shorts over to a sewing machine, and I would sew shut one side of their shorts, like completely shut. So they'd try to put it on, their leg would stick, and they would fall over. I would fucking die laughing. It's the best ever. Or super glue their gloves to their helmet. That to me, that's just quality use of mental horsepower.
That's money, And it I just don't understand how people don't have fun with that.
I mean, I even when it happened. So obviously, people find out rapidly who has a history of doing this type of stuff.
Because you're kind of telling yourself, you're over there pointing your fingers like,
correct.
Hey, I want the credit for this.
So I know I'm gonna get some shit my way, but I just would laugh at it too. They would try the same stuff, and I would just be like, all right, that was a B+ effort. I'm gonna fuck you up with some A+ shit right now.
I'll tell you one of the best ones that was played on me. I thought I was a bedwetter when I was a fireman, and I seriously was like, how did I get through the Marine Corps without pissing? And now all of a sudden I'm pissing in my bed. So one night, these fuckers did. You know, an IV bag, they have this long tube that goes in an IV bag, and then at the end of it, if they don't put the syringe on the end of it, it's just an open drip line, and they can control that with
the little thumb wheel.
Yeah. So what they did is we had, just like this, we had a hung ceiling above my rack.
Which is perfect, because I get stories about hung ceilings too.
Oh boy. So they crawl up. My bed's probably a 1.5 feet, 2 feet from the hung ceiling. They crawl upstairs. They put that tube just at the edge of the hung ceiling where you look, you can't tell. And while you're sleeping, they open up the drip, and the entire bag wet your bed, and you wake up the next morning, you're trying to hide it, like, and they're watching, they're laughing, and I'm like, I felt like I pissed myself, man. But they that was a really good joke. They go,
It's quality, and they can control the velocity with the drip. See that thought process? That's a varsity level joke.
I can tell you the best one. I know we can go round for round, but our fire department, the next town over, Hilton Head, they actually got sued by a paramedic. They gave a heart attack to. Like they had to work him. He went into like a full code. I mean, he got fucked.
Due to a prank?
Listen to this shit. This is sadistic stuff, man. These firemen walk in. I don't like to say people's names. So they grab this guy, and I know this guy very well, and this is very true. So they grab him, they hold him down, they tie him down so he can't get up. He's screaming, "Let me up, you motherfuckers, let me up." So they walk in with a chainsaw. It's dark. They have candles. They're like doing this seance thing. They fired his chainsaw up, and all you hear is he got this big steel chainsaw, and they're all chanting this weird shit, right?
Mind you, this is all occurring while they're on the shift, I'm assuming.
Of course. Taxpayer. These
Yes.
are taxpayer pranks,
Just wanted
bro.
to make sure.
So what they do is he hit the kill switch, and the guy that was running the saw goes, "Fuck, it's out of gas. Hang on." And then so he walks out. Well, in the meantime, the guy that's tied down screaming. Well, they didn't tell him they have another chainsaw right outside, but they took the blade off. Now it's dark. You can't see. They took the chain off. So he comes back, and he lays it on his chest, and he did a fucking guy had a heart attack. And he sued the fucking city of Hilton Head for tons of money.
Did he win?
Yes.
God damn it.
Tons of money. That's good.
See,
That's hard to beat.
the only bad part about that story is that they're going to have like doctrine and guidance that comes from that is going to outlaw all of the awesome shit you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's why SOPs are in place and all that stuff, is because somebody fucked something up before, right?
God damn it. Yeah, there was a section of cages, a notorious section, where if you pranked one of those people in those cages, like it was gonna be bad. Like they would take like flashbangs and put them under people's shoes, like, and it would go off in their cage. No eye pro, no ear pro, like deafening. I was there when they put a full Zodiac inside of a guy's cage, and we'd had him hooked up to scuba tanks, and they twisted it on so it completely inflated inside of his cage. I've seen him weld people's cages shut, like 1,000 ties along the door, each one individually. I know guys who would shit in Dixie cups, put it in the freezer, and then put that, drill holes in it, and then put that on top of their cage so it would...
Bro. That's why I'm an animal when it comes to pranking. This is the best. I fuck with my kids. I got a 3-year-old and 6-year-old. They're fucked up because of it.
Yeah,
I'm going to shit in a Dixie cup tonight. No, I'm going to fuck them up.
Yep, don't stop.
In their hotel room.
Yeah, they call that area of the cage the Gaza Strip. You did not fuck with that.
You didn't fuck with it?
No. No, one of the best ones I think I ever did is I collected all the shreddings from the top secret shredders, which is a fine, fine mist. And a guy had his sunroof open, and I just filled that shit as far in there as I could.
Dude.
And for years, he would turn the AC on, and it would be like, poof, and it would spit out a little bit of the shit.
Yeah, you make me feel bad because that's nothing what we did. We took a bunch of Lance Corporal stickers on a guy's car and just covered his car, and it fucked all of his paint up and stuff.
Oh,
but
for
that's
sure.
nothing like you got. All 4 of my tires got sliced while I was in the shower the day I was leaving the Marine Corps. That's what they did to me. They sliced my fucking tires, and I had to buy new tires. Like, you guys, are you serious right now?
So the varsity move would be slice the tires and then take a magnet and run them down your credit card stripe. So when you go to pay for it, you're Fucksville.
Well, I had to call my father because I was so broke. I hate admitting this. I was so broke. To get gas that day, I had 2 pots and pans, and I used to cook on these little burners in my room. I sold that for $60 to a guy named Rial. He lives in California now. Thanks, Rial, for getting me home. He gave me $60 for these pots and pans in the burner. That gave me gas money. My dad had to buy fucking tires. I had to have it flatbed to the station down the street. Guys are all laughing and shitting themselves. Because the day you're ready to get out, you're ready to go.
Oh, you're ready to turn your back.
That stretched me out like 6 more hours, dude. I was like, God damn it.
That's the shit I miss, man. I'm literally crying right now from laughing so hard, like just thinking back of all the ridiculous.
You could go on and on and on.
Oh, I know.
It's ridiculous. My kids have the toughest skin I've ever seen of little kids. My kids, I'll see other people's little kids that we hang around, and they're crying about dumb shit, and my kids are over there like, this ain't shit. It's great.
All right, so you're a firefighter.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit more about to get out of that. So just kind of paint a picture of how I was, man. Very early, I was pranking, and I was about to get kicked out of the fire academy. The instructor pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, there's a time and a place." And in my mind, I'm like, "Yeah, that's right now and all the time." Like, I didn't get it. So I get out of the I graduated the fire academy. My first day on shift, I'm walking into my new fire station in my uniform. Door flies open. I catch a bucket of water right in the fucking mouth. Whole bucket, right? And I was like, God damn it. You know what I mean? So, and I'm thinking back to this instructor. I'm like, this dude just told me there's a time and a place. Apparently, it's all the time. And right? So I put on my new uniform. We go to work. At lunchtime, I don't have lunch. The guys cook lunch. I'm sorry, new guy, we don't have enough for you. I was like, all right.
Sounds appropriate.
Then they get on the truck. This is in my book. There's a story in my book, and I'll tell it quickly. Is we get on the fire truck. They're going down the street, and they just stop, and they pull the air brake. Psh, and they both look back at me, and they go, can we trust you? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess you can trust me. And they go, no, can we trust you? And now I felt like I was in this awkward position, like, what the fuck's going on? And I was like, yeah, man, you can trust me. And I go, I was in the Marine Corps. I got your back, whatever. It's like a dumbass. So they have a conversation for a couple seconds. They get out, they grab a toolbox, and then I watch them jump a ditch, go through some like light vegetation. And I'm looking through the truck. They told me, if you see the cops, hit the air horn. So I had to sit up front and hit the air horn if I saw the cops. Here we are in a goddamn fire truck. We're firemen. And I watch them. They go through these bushes, and they're working on this boat trailer. And I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Then it hit me. I was like, they're stealing fucking boat parts off a fucking trailer on duty as firemen. And I'm thinking, we don't do this, dude.
Meanwhile, you're in uniform in lookout in a fire truck.
Bro, yeah, I'm the lookout guy. And this goes against everything I stand for, everything. And now I'm like, well, fuck, I want to be a fireman, but I don't want these guys to not trust me. What do I do? And immediately I'm in that position. Well, they come back and they get in and they look at me. They're like, you better not fucking say a word. I'm like, oh, God damn. So now I'm in the backseat of the fire truck. Well, they turn around, they start laughing. And they could tell that I was very nervous. Before they started pulling off, they start laughing. And they're like, dude, we're just fucking with you. And what the guy in the truck was like, that's my boat trailer. We're just fucking with you. We got to go to the boat store. I got to replace one of the roller pins. And that's what they did. So they played that prank on me. Now they think I'm pulling me into this criminal world. So what they did is went to the boat store. We came back, and then they put the boat part back on the new part. But they were just fucking with me.
Yeah.
So
they're feeling you out.
This is my first day. So right after that, like 20 minutes after that, we get called to a head-on collision with a lady dead. Here I am. I'm 21 years old. I've already been to more fatal accidents than I care between the time of 15 to 18, but I thought I'd gotten away from that for a little while. But now on my first day back on the job, it's like, this is real.
Yeah.
So I'm working this lady on this fatal wreck. It's a head-on collision. Back then, South Carolina Highway 170. It ran from Beaufort, where Parris Island is, to Savannah. And all the military would go to Savannah to party, or vice versa. People in Savannah would come to Beaufort and back and forth. And it was just desolate. It was the third most violent road or deadly road in the country back then.
Shit.
In comparison to a road that was here in Montana, I can't remember the name. This was years ago. And then there was one in Mississippi. And
for a long time, there was no speed limit in Montana.
I could see.
You would drive at what you consider to be a reasonable rate.
It's up to you.
There's some variables like visibility, precipitation, intoxication.
Yeah. We take all those into account, but whatever you deem necessary.
It got wild, from my understanding.
I bet. And that's probably why you guys had the #1 ranking in that position for a while.
I wasn't living here at that time. I was, where I was born in Santa Cruz, the road that separates Santa Cruz from San Jose is Highway 17.
Okay.
And that fucker's gnarly.
Yeah.
And when my dad would tell me stories like, when I was growing up, there was no median in between, no concrete to separate the bumper cars. And let me just tell you, about every stretch of that concrete going over Highway 17 is discolored from cars bouncing up against it.
Yeah. It's crazy how dangerous it is. But we worked 9 fatalities in 1 month on that road. 9 in one month period. And we only worked 10 shifts a month. So that's what I'm getting at. In my book, I talk about the stacking effect of trauma and how trauma later comes back in your life, and it can fuck you up. Some people, it never messes with them, but all it takes is one little thing, and that one little thing for me years later was losing 9 guys in one fire, and I was on the body recovery team. All those guys were my friends. One of them was my best friend, and I had to go in and pull them out. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, but we'll get to that down the road.
Yeah.
Back to this incident. We're working this dead lady, cutting her out of the car on my first day, and this is what I talk about with the military. Our fight is overseas, right? And normally when we leave that, we come home, but we leave the fight over there. We come back to whatever inner demons we may have, but we don't have to live in the environment that makes us sick.
You actually have quite a transitional phase, or at least a little bit of time in separation on your traveling home.
Right.
And those environments, I mean, for me at least, Iraq and Afghanistan, very different from the environments you're returning home to.
Right.
So there's a geographical, a visual, a mental, a shift for sure.
Yeah, and so I talk about that in the book, how firemen and cops, not only do we live and thrive and raise our children in these environments that make us sick, you know, like you never get to leave them.
Yeah.
So that's eventually what happened to me. But after this call that I'm talking about, 10 minutes after we're done, we're back in our rig into the station, we're having dinner, and we're getting ready for the next call, because it's not long after that we're going to another worst day of somebody else's life. And that happened to me for over a period of 10 years. I was in a very, very busy and gnarly situations where a lot of our first responders are. It's not me. It's not a competition by any means, but I got into all kinds of crazy shit that came back and fucked me up later. That's why I'm doing what I do now. I talk about finding post-traumatic purpose extensively. I talk at conventions. I talk at private conferences. I do comedy events and stuff through comedy clubs and at conferences, and just kind of mix it all in.
Yeah.
And it's just a good mix.
Were you getting like a statistically higher than normal just randomly? Or, you know what I mean? Like you said, it's definitely not a competition, but it sounds like you might have been exposed to a substantial amount of that trauma.
I don't know what it is, man.
Unlucky?
I think
Perhaps.
so. I really do. Now, look, first responders go to a ton of stuff. I just had some buddies the other day. They were working a wreck on a bridge where a cop was on a bridge. There was a tow truck. And this happens all over the country. You just never hear about it. Tow truck's behind him. They got rear-ended. They were on this bridge that's several hundred feet up in the air. Tow truck driver was thrown off the bridge while these guys are up there. The cop was severely fucked up. He's in critical condition still. And they had to watch this guy just fly over the bridge to his death. I mean, you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And when you're in that profession for so long. So when you were overseas, every day wasn't combat, right?
No.
You had your times.
Yeah.
And it was probably a smaller amount of time in combat than your entire tour.
Oh, if you were there were stretches of time where you would operate every day,
Right.
but you're also on helicopters for hours, or vehicles, or walking.
Right.
The actual engaged in what people would consider to be combat was very short periods of time.
Exactly. So,
Very short periods of time.
and that's my point. So when you're in a busy department, like a lot of first responders are, that is all the time. It's constant.
Yeah.
You go one call to the next. And 1 minute you're in a fight for your life. As me, when I was a police officer, I'm on my back. I had a guy punching my face in, grabbing my weapon, and afterwards he told the investigators he was going to kill me because he was going back to prison. And in 10 minutes after that, this guy had the upper hand on me. He was going to kill me, and I was about to lose my life. Another cop came in and saved me. And then 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, I'm on a domestic dispute.
Yeah.
I don't even have time to decompress. I'm at this domestic dispute, arresting a guy who just beat his wife, and now when I'm arresting him, she's attacking me. Now I'm fighting both of them. Now you get them put in jail. Then you got to go down the street for a fucking barking dog, and heaven forbid you're not as polite to those people as you should be.
Thrown
Yeah,
against you.
because you're just in a fight for your life in two different scenarios, and now I'm here, and that's why these cops are all. That's why the cops, unfortunately, sometimes are a little short with people. You don't know what these guys go through every day, but I'm not going to make this a political thing. It's just
It's not a political thing. I actually, I'm pretty vocal with my support of police and people in the first responder world.
Right.
My job was extremely different than anything that police do. But having to have walked up on vehicles in a tactical environment, like, it's hard to describe what's going through your head and how little information you need to make decisions. But what we didn't have to do in my old job was respond to what you're talking about, where you finish that situation and then it's a domestic dispute and then it's something that is trivial and then you have to go to this call because somebody called 911 and you're fried, right? You're fried at the end of the day.
And you have to be perfect every single time.
I talked to my buddies here in the Valley. They were some of the first people that I met, and I'm really good friends with them. They got me into jiu-jitsu. I hang out with them all the time. And to hear them, describe, they talk about their job. A lot of it is it's routine and it's very rote. But like you're saying, the person who was trying to attack you, they didn't want to go back to prison.
No.
And that's the variable that maybe people don't take very much time to think about is a cop might walk up to 10 cars in one shift. Maybe, that number could be completely high or low. But you don't know the mindset of the person who's in the driver's seat of that car, who doesn't realize, they didn't pay their parking tickets for 5 years. You're not going to prison for that. You might get in trouble, but you don't need to try to beat the shit out of the cop or run for your life.
That's right.
I don't know. And I watch what's happening with policing and people calling to defund the police, which to some people seems to mean abolish, to other it means take the money, and that's the wrong path, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
So,
yeah, it's in the criminal world. When you're a police officer, the criminals aren't all wearing green lights. You don't know who's capable of what and who just did what. We're just trying to do our job. When we see something possibly going wrong or something that piques our interest because we see this criminal element every day, and we want to talk with you, people will fly off the handle and you go, man, fuck you, I didn't do anything. It's like, calm down, dude. I'm just here to talk with you.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to fill out this situation because I saw something that I feel is consistent with this type of criminal element. But people want to have court out on the street too many times.
I had the guy, Greg Anderson, on, who was the Seattle cop who posted a video that went extremely viral, just talking about largely the role of law enforcement in a pandemic era. And I asked him when we were talking about it on the podcast, the difference in how he's treated when he's wearing uniform versus when he's not. And just that stereotype and how people will walk across the street or avoid him. It's like, dude, I'm just out here trying to do my job.
That's all it is. It's tough. I don't know how these guys do it today. It wasn't
It's not
as
getting
polarizing.
any easier, that's for sure.
No. So when I did it, I was a cop from 03 to 05 in a very short period of time. And I was in a very aggressive city back then. It was the 5th most violent city per capita. It was like the Wild West. It was nuts. But it wasn't polarizing like it is now. Thank God.
Why do you think that is?
Cell phones. It's all right here. It's all social
Just
media.
the access to people to see.
Everybody's a street lawyer now. Everybody knows. They think that they know what cops should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. I saw a post this morning, and it said you couldn't walk as a civilian. You couldn't walk into a hospital and demand to regulate doctors and all this because you don't have the educational background to do so. Whereas, does that make sense? I see the confusion on your face.
I don't know why anybody would think that they would walk into a hospital and tell a doctor what to do.
That's the point we're making. So they're saying you shouldn't be able to stand outside and tell cops how to do their job, right? But everybody is able to do that and demand these police officers do things differently. It's just like you operating overseas, man. Look, you understand that element more so than people that sit back and watch TV or the guys that play airsoft and they think they know what they're talking about. You know, it's a different world.
Yeah.
That we live in. So it's just unfortunate what's going on. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be a police officer when it was still fun and you could actually be the police and do police shit, and not now.
What do you think it looks like if they continue on with the current push 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now?
Bro.
Like, can you actually imagine not having police? Like, and people will push back on this when they hear this. They'll say, when they say abolish the police, that's not what they mean. And my response to that is, for some people, that's exactly what the fuck they mean.
Yeah. You're right.
And I don't think people are ready, willing, or interested in actually being their own first responder.
Right. So look at what's you better start loving the Second Amendment if you don't. I mean, look at what's going on in New York right now. They're making all these misdemeanors just not even enforceable anymore.
Yeah.
And the crime is just starting to shoot through the roof again. I think it's a cycle. I think what'll happen is it's going to get so bad that people are going to be screaming for the police to come back. And they're going to be the heroes again. And people are going to be applauding them. Thank you. And they're going to be baking cookies and having fucking parades when they come back. But unfortunately, the toll that it's going to take for it to get to that point is going to be devastating.
And you can't switch a community like that on a dime.
No.
So right now, people who maybe felt a sense of purpose or calling and they wanted to be a police officer, they're looking at the environment, like the people who are looking at beginning that journey, they're like, fuck this, I'm going to go do something else. But now they still need cops, right? So I'd say there's a chance that you're going to be drawing in people who have they're looking at joining for other reasons. That would probably be the polite way to put it. And then when you're starting to call and when you want to have that bake sale for the police, that community is going to be full of the people that you didn't want there in the first place.
Exactly.
And that shit takes decades to fix.
You better not be looking at getting into law enforcement to catch the bad guy anymore. I promise you that. I could talk about this shit all day. I described this in my book, man, how when I was a police officer, it was so political back then. I'd never experienced anything like this. I mean, I was really wrapped up in a political environment as a young police officer. But so I couldn't imagine doing it now, as polarizing as it is. I got in a fight with a man with a gun one day, and I decided in my conscience not to shoot him. I could have shot him, taken his life.
Legally justified?
Oh, fucking hands down. But I went toe-to-toe with him instead. I holstered up and fucking manned up and was like, let's do it. And we went toe-to-toe. I got Officer of the Month 4 months later. Exactly, right? Right? And here's the thing, as funny as that is, hey, thanks for not shooting that guy and costing us a bunch of fucking money. But this happened all the time. This wasn't just me. Tons of officers did the same thing. It was just one of those situations where it's like, you don't have to shoot a guy for every time you feel threatened. You can go toe-to-toe with him. Let's do it. And I was able to do what I had to do, get him under control, arrest him. What I'm getting at is I get Officer of the Month. 4 months later, I'm fired. I got fired from the job because I was making too much noise as a police officer. I was what they called a rock flipper, right? And we were out flipping rocks, looking for crime. We were proactive as shit. And then it just got to a point where the upper echelon in the police department was like, hey, you're getting into too much stuff. Be quiet. We need to just take your calls. And I didn't understand that as a 27-year-old police officer. I was like, what the fuck? You're asking me to not do my job?
Yeah, you're out there to fight crime.
You would think. So what I did is I walked out of that meeting knowing better than our deputy chief and our assistant chief knew and my captain, me being patrolman. Like, fuck, what do they know? 10 minutes later, I'm in a fucking another fight after a car chase, and then about an hour and a half after that, I'm unemployed. So
Yeah.
that was my police career, but I had a hell of a run for 2 years. Got a lot of experience, and I was pissed for 8 years after they fired me, because when you get fired from being a police officer, it's a kick in the balls, and you almost feel like you're a worthless person then. It's like, man, police are supposed to be the best of the best, and I just got fired. But I fought it for 8 years, and I was able to overturn it later, because what happened was there was a police officer on scene that said that I asked him to lie for me. I never did. Long story short, it was over a small amount of drug evidence that we found in the car. He said that I asked him to lie so we could pin it on the driver. In the state of South Carolina, that's stupid, because if it's found in the driver's car, it's his regardless.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, what happened was he took that, immediately went to internal affairs, made a formal complaint, and now they had something. They're like, look, this kid isn't listening to us. We just brought him in here, and he's clearly not
They
listening.
felt they had cause to get rid of you.
Fucking nailed me. Pulled my certification, said that I was lying, conduct unbecoming as a police officer for lying. Fought it for 8 years because I knew that I didn't do that. And 8 years later, it was overturned when the police academy did their own separate investigation. Found out that that officer that made that complaint was fired from 3 other agencies for lying. Then they're like, hey, we're here to inform you that you're now re-eligible. I'm like, no fucking thank you, but thank you.
Yeah.
So I went back to the fire department where I really belong, and I knew that's exactly where, because you cannot get fired from being a fireman. If you have a fucking heartbeat, you're good to go.
I've heard that firemen and police have one thing in common, too. And it's they both want to be firemen.
That's right. That's exactly right. Dude, I was a cop.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll flip-flop that joke depending on the audience.
Depending on who you're talking to. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't
it work
blame you
both
one bit.
ways.
I'm actually, I was sitting here thinking, I've never heard that. I was like, man, that's brilliant. I'm actually going to do that at a police convention. I just spoke at the National Fraternal Order of Police
Okay.
in Nashville, and I wish we could rewind, and I would have done this episode before because I would have used that.
You could use that, and then when you go to the Fraternal Order of Firefighters or whatever they have,
Oh, it's flipped.
you just flip it. and
Fuck those guys, those cops.
Exactly. It works perfectly. So you went military, fire, police, back to fire.
Back to fire.
What was your gap from leaving the police service going back to fire? Was it a long time off? Or
It was like a week.
That's not bad.
Dude, so it was.
Well, actually, hold on. Why did you decide to go fire police? What made that shift?
So I did a ride along, right? It almost would be like you being in the Navy and you having the opportunity to go hang out with the guys that are already on the teams, saying, hey, Andy, come jump on this whirly bird with us, take a ride and see what we do.
Yeah.
And you'd be fucking hooked.
And they show you the time of your life.
They show you the good shit. Yeah. So that's what happened. They don't show you the dog shit. So
Perfect.
That's what happened to me. I was a fireman in Charleston, and I was loving it. My best friend, who was killed later on the job, Louis Mulkey, he was like, "You fucking loser! Why are you going to be a cop?" And I was like, "Dude, I did a ride along. I got to go get some of this. This is crazy." I already knew from the fire standpoint, we were busy as shit, man, and we did a lot of fun. But these guys had a different level of high speedness, if you will, that I wanted to taste too. And I was hooked. And that's what happens. But when I got fired, I picked up the phone and I called the head chief back. I had a good relationship with him. And I said, "Chief," he said, how's the police job going? I said, "Not good, man. I just got fired."
Funny you should ask.
I did. So I just got fired. He said, "The fuck did you get fired for?" And I told him, he goes, "Well, you want to come at Charles Fire Department?"
Yes.
I was like, yes, please. And he pretty much hired me that day. It took a week to get my uniforms and all that, but he had an opening. What happened? He had an opening on Engine 16 on Charleston's west side where a kid just left. Instead of having an entire new rookie class, I was already certified. He's like, "Hey, just go fill that spot for me."
Yeah.
I was like, pfft.
Which is actually beneficial to the team, too, because you're coming in with experience.
Coming in hot, dude. I love
Yeah.
it. And it's like, it was for 8 years getting fired for as a cop. I was still pissed about that incident years later, but I didn't realize that was just a blessing in disguise because it put me on this road to where I am now, sitting here in the studio with you.
Yeah.
Had that not happened, all this other shit in my life wouldn't happen. And I'd actually probably be in jail right now for policing the way we used to police back then. You never know. So you just got to roll with it, man.
For sure. So how did what happened with the 9 guys getting killed?
You ready to get heavy?
Yeah. Because that, I mean, I don't. My brother-in-law is a San Diego City fire captain,
Oh, really? Okay.
and he started as, I believe, an EMT. Worked firefighter. I went to his graduating class in San Diego, so he went to firefighter. Fuck, and I might get this a little bit wrong. Then I think he became an engineer.
Yep.
And then a
And
captain.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
So, but I have never heard him talk about losing 9 people on a fire.
No, man. So that incident I still speak about it openly at conferences, but sometimes it does get heavy because I was very, very personally involved in this. And that fire at the time was the second largest loss of life for firemen since the World Trade Center. Obviously, they lost 343 guys. We can't compare to that. But in the fire department, when you lose one or 2 guys is usually a big.
It's massive.
It's fucking massive. And so percentage-wise, now we had a department of 300 and a little over 300 guys. So
And this
percentage
is still Charleston, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 300 some guys.
City of Charleston. So when you lose 9 guys in a 300-man department, it's a huge percentage versus
Per capita, yeah.
the FDNY who lost 343, but they have fucking 15, 20,000 firemen.
And you almost can't compare those two incidents.
You
I
really-
mean, 9/11, absent 9/11. If you just were to remove that from the statistics, and by no means I'm trying to diminish that, but it rounds out their, you know what I mean, the statistical likelihood of something like that happening. 9/11 obviously was a crazy anomaly.
Right. Well, so Charleston, coming from where we come from, that was a very aggressive fire department back then. We were what they call cowboy firefighters. We didn't really wear air packs in a lot of fires. We prided ourselves on being very dangerous. I mean, it was fun. It was absolutely fun. We took safety and threw it out the window. And
Was that in the doctrine, or did you guys just adopt your
No, bro,
tactics that way?
That was the culture. And
Okay.
it would be like you going to I don't want to talk your language because I don't understand it, but I'm just trying to it'd be like you coming from one team, maybe going to dev crew and not doing what they do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you kind of just trying to do it your own. They'd be like, no, dude, you're fucking up the street.
Yep.
So I can't speak intelligently about that community.
I know what you're saying, though. You fit in culturally, or
That's it.
or you
Or
kick rocks down the road.
You kick fucking rocks. So we had a bunch of busy houses in the city of Charleston. We had 20 firehouses. All right. Now, only a small number of those were really, really busy, and the other ones were slower. And then ones on the outline of the city were fucking dead.
It's probably the same in every city, I would imagine.
It's just like that. So what you would do is if you didn't do it the way they did it, and you weren't considered one of the
You get
boys,
pushed out to one of the
your
other
ass
houses.
is in the fucking tree houses sleeping for fucking.
Yeah.
And you don't do that as a young fireman. We want to fight fire, and we want to go in there and do the dangerous shit and do all look at me stuff, you know. And at that age, it's about the girls too, man.
You guys watched Backdraft far too much, didn't you?
Yeah, no, man. And the fire world, nothing like that. But you know, yeah, we watched it a few times.
I was going to say, yeah.
But it's really actually the job's nothing like that.
Much like Navy SEALs is nothing like.
I love how in a fire they show these guys and they're just walking around and they can see everything. It's not like that, dude. Close your eyes. That's what it's like in a fire. It's fucking black and it feels like an oven. You can't see shit. So anyway, I go back to Charleston. I'm there for 2 years and everything's going fine. And the day of the Sofa Superstore fire, which is the fire that was on the west side.
Sofa Superstore?
Sofa Superstore was like a 100,000 square foot building, and it was a furniture store. And in the back, the main showroom, I can't remember the square footage, they had this huge warehouse behind the showroom, but it was connected. What happened was that portion of the storage building caught fire that day. And
How?
From a fucking cigarette. A cigarette started this shit. So
Wow.
the fire somehow got in there, spread so rapidly, got into the main showroom. By the time, I mean, it happened so fast. Our guys were in there on scene maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops. And the whole building comes down on top of them. But they honestly, I know the real story. They did these reports, these NIOSH reports. They're like, oh, the building collapses. No, these guys burned to death. And you can hear them screaming on the radios and shit. I mean, you can play it back and listen to it. It's very, very bad. It's very eerie. But I'll kind of get to where I was that day. I was off duty, and we were at a golf tournament down the street, a couple miles down the road, for a buddy of ours, another fireman who was killed 4 months to the day. His name is Shane Albers, and I changed his name in the book because people, if they read the book, his name in the book is Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that so I don't get fucking lawsuit. But we're at a golf tournament, and that golf tournament was wrapping up, and everybody starts getting calls. Then they were saying, hey, man, the Superstore's on fire, and it's getting out of control quick. So you got a bunch of drunk fucking firemen. We're all down the street. It's golf. We were fucked up. We jump in our cars. We're hauling ass going down there to see what's going on. While we're on the way, I find out my buddy Lewis, who's my best friend, that he's missing. And so when I pulled up on the scene, the crazy part about this is, before I get to that point, Lewis and I worked a call years prior to this where a man was murdered and he was set on fire. And me and Lewis were on our knees next to this guy after we put him out. We pulled up on the scene. He was still fully engulfed in fire.
Like just his body was on fire?
His body. They doused him in gasoline, lit a match, put him on fire.
Fuck.
We got called out for a building fire. Turned out it was a man on fire, but he was already dead. So Lewis and I are sitting just like this. So if this is the guy's body in the middle,
between us,
you're
okay.
Lewis, I'm me. We're on our knees and we're just looking at each other. And we had this moment because this guy was burnt ridiculously, and I'm just like, fuck. And we're locked eyes. And this is very important where I'm telling the story. When we roll this guy over, he was so burnt that it snapped his arm in half. And we, from the puddle of water that we were kneeling in where we put him out, we had to pick his skin off of our pants. Right, his skin was floating in that water and it was all over our pants. And that would be me years later, same exact scenario next to Lewis's body.
Fuck.
Same fucking thing. On my knees next to him crying like a baby, right? And that's how real this job can get, and that's how fast it happens. So we get to the call, and I got there right as the building had collapsed, and I ran up to the first engine. I mean, we had fire engines from all over. We had multiple jurisdictions there. There were probably several hundred firemen on scene this night. We get there, and I meet up my buddy David Griffin, he's a chief with the city, and he was an engineer, an assistant engineer.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first engine on scene. He was pumping, and I ran up and I said, Dave, we got guys in there. He said, yeah, Lewis is inside, because he knew how tight we were. And I was like, fuck. And I just knew. I was like, this isn't good, man.
And the building had already come down at this point?
Oh, dude, yeah, it was in shambles, and it was, but flames were everywhere. We had two tower ladder trucks overhead operating now, shooting master streams of water on this building. All the guys had been backed out. In Charleston, we didn't back out of fires ever. It was a pride thing. We stayed in and we fought fire no matter what, and it cost us 9 guys. It took 100-something years of tradition to do that, but it bit us in the ass. So anyway, once the fire got knocked down enough to where they knew we could go inside and do searches, they initially thought we had like 19 or 20 guys in there because they couldn't get in touch with guys over the radio, and then finally guys started coming around answering. Well, one of the assistant chiefs was walking around. Excuse me, he was a battalion chief. He was looking for volunteers to go inside, and some guys were like, I'm not going in there. And me being naive, I was like, well, fuck, hey, I'll do it. So there was 20 of us. I want to say 15 or 20 of us on the search teams, and we were split up into different teams, 4 or 5 different teams. And my team, we assembled. We went in from what we call the Delta side, which is if you're looking at the building, it's the right side. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any air packs on our back because they were all used that night, so we're having to take our flash hoods and put them over our faces, and we're coughing and hacking up smoke. There's still a lot of...
I was going to say, I don't feel like that was an effective way of filtering your breathing.
Not at all. I mean, it was fucking nasty. So there was parts in this building. I almost drowned inside this building because the tower ladders, like I told you, they were still shooting massive amounts of water. And in normal standard fire department operating procedures, you never send guys in when those things are overhead shooting water because it can shoot debris on them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It can fucking knock you down, hit your head, kill you, or it can, the worst thing, it can blow fire back on you. It can push a fire on top of you.
Ooh.
And we didn't have hose lines because they were all destroyed in this building collapse. And they were
so this building is still on fire when you guys are going in?
Oh, yeah. It's still, I mean, it's not as massive as it was, but there's still very, very large presence of fire when we went in there.
How much time would you say has elapsed?
Hour and a half, maybe. We probably went in around 8 o'clock, 8:30, and I think the building collapsed 7:20ish, somewhere around there, give or take. So we're in there, and I remember low crawling underneath this piece of steel, and I got stuck. All right, and I'm on my belly, and my whole head is submerged underwater, and I got stuck because I was trying to go under this piece of steel. It's all twisted steel, like these I-beams, it's twisted spaghetti. And I remember thinking, I'm going to fucking drown in this building, so I backed out, and I had to find a different route. And we still didn't think, well, at least I didn't think that we were going to find anybody. I can't explain the chaos that was in this building. It was just, but we ended up finding 9 of them. The first one we found, I don't really mention names anymore. I used to, but just especially if I'm going to describe the condition. I don't really want to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fatal scenes, multiple fire fatalities with, I'm talking burned up kids, and I've never in my life seen anything like I was about to see. And it was personal, so it made it hard. The first one we found, I saw a piece of silver, and everything was black in this building that night. Nothing looked, you couldn't really recognize what anything was. So I saw a piece of silver, and I'm on my hands and knees, and I crawl over to it, and I was, in my book, I talk about how I was like a curious dog tilting his head back and forth, investigating this thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it was silver. And then what I realized was it was a firefighter's air pack. And I wasn't ready for that because this thing had exploded and it was filleted open from the heat. And what I realized I had my hands on was his back. And we wore black bunker gear back then. And so I pushed myself off and I looked down where his head should have been, but he didn't have a head. There was nothing there. So I looked closer and there was a hole. And what I realized is that his spinal column was coming out of this hole. There was no helmet. There was no skull. There was just a few teeth. And this is the best way that I can explain what I saw. It's just a few teeth. And it hit me. This is one of our guys. So I call the rest of my team over. They were probably, I don't know, I mean, they were within 10 feet maybe. And I told them, I said, hey, man, I found somebody. And I was still blown away, like, this isn't real. And so when they got over there, what we did is we kind of maneuvered his coat. We pulled his coat up, and then we pulled his fire pants down, and he had his uniform pants underneath. And in his back pocket, we found his wallet. And we opened that wallet, and we saw his driver's license. And just like if I opened mine, his driver's license is right there. And then we pulled his credit cards out, and it was definitely one of ours, one of our captains. And I was like, fuck. This is real. So we all just kind of stayed there on our knees trying to process what we're seeing. You know, these are men who had been on the job longer than me. I was probably the junior in the crew, I think, yeah, because I was with a captain and another engineer. They'd been on the job a little longer than me. So I could see it in their eyes, like this was a very difficult thing to process after you'd been on tons of scenes like this. I mean,
tons of scenes, but never one of your own.
No, and in the condition they're in, I mean, it's just, I can't describe this. It's not like it was just somebody you recognize. It's like, now we got to figure out who you are. So our orders were to not disturb them because the coroner was going to come in later. We needed to mark them, and if we could identify without too much disturbance to do so, then the coroner would come in later, mark them with a GPS, because later, I don't think they had this in the plans, but later they built this nice park dedicated to them, and there's a marker where every one of them fell with their names on it. And some shitbag just went out there and desecrated that after all this other shit going on. But anyway, we'll get to that later, I guess. But so after we mark him, we start searching some more. Now, we were in the building searching for a good time before we found the first guy, and when we found ours, some other guys, I think they found two more towards the front of the store, and you could hear them. We were all within shouting distance, and they were doing the best they could to identify who they found. And, you know, no one is more important than the other, but when you have a best friend that you know is in that mix, you're hoping you're not going to identify him and that he's just trapped somewhere. He's lost. He's out there without his radio, but that wouldn't be the case. So the next guy we came on he was off of my truck, and I knew him very well. He was just the shift before me. I relieved him the next day, and we didn't notice at the time that was him. He was laying on his face, and when we rolled him over, he had his hands up kind of like this, and it's almost as if he were shielding himself from the wall of fire that was coming at him, because they were caught in what we call a flashover. It's not a backdraft. Backdraft is when there's no oxygen in a room and you introduce oxygen and boom.
A rapid introduction, like an explosion, right?
Right. A flashover is the opposite. A flashover is when shit is already burning, but everything gets so hot it reaches its combustible limit at the same time. So it just poof, and it's a massive ball of fire.
So it's a fire that explodes into more fire, essentially?
No. So what it is superheated gases that explode into fire. Right. So everything has a combustible limit. Even this microphone.
Yep.
These earphones. And they may be different, but when everything gets so hot, they all combust at the same time. That's a flashover.
Okay.
That's me in lay terms, not being a fucking scientist about it. Just
Is that
trying
why
to
they
describe
vent
it.
ceilings to let the temperature out so things don't do that?
You mean roof crews with firemen?
Yeah.
Like, so that's why we go on top of houses and cut fires out.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Is that why
it's
you
to
vent
expel the heat? That's
so
exactly
it doesn't
right.
reach the, okay.
That's right. And so that's what my job was. I was a vent guy, a roof guy, on
Okay.
a ladder company, and we did search and rescue and stuff. So, when we found the next guy, like I say, his hands were up. But when we rolled him over, so picture a firefighter's face piece, right? It's black. You have the seal that seals everything, and then you have a piece of plastic. The best way I can describe this was when we rolled him over. You ever see a 3D image of a ultrasound of a baby?
Yes.
That's what his face looked like, and it was burned into that mask. And that's what I saw when I rolled him over. We didn't know who it was. So what we did is I unbuttoned his coat, and we had metal name tags back then. And when I saw his name tag, I knew exactly who it was.
Positive ID. Yeah.
So now I'm 2 guys in, and the condition I'm seeing them in is just scaring me because I'm like, I know I'm going to find Lewis like this. And we go to the next guy. My team found 4, right? So the next guy that we found, he was in the back storage room, and there was no damage to him at all. He looked just like you or I. He was just covered in soot. He ran out of air and died of smoke inhalation in the back. And he was huddled down in a corner trying to get whatever little bit of air he could. He came over the radio that night saying that he was lost and out of air, and he knew he was dying. And it's just sad. But he was in this back room that was his center block room.
Mm-hmm.
There was just no getting out for him. There was no way out. So we rolled him over. He had a scratch over his eye that had a little bit of blood, and that was it. He looked normal. And I sat with him for a few seconds before we went on, because when we found him, he was the 7th guy, he was the 8th guy that we found. So that meant we knew we had one more, and nobody had found Lewis. So I was like, I got to find him. And I walked out of that room, and it's about 15 feet away or so. And then I just happened to look down to my left, and he was on his back. And he had his both of his arms were out in front of him like he was reaching up to the sky, and he didn't have any hands. And his fire coat was completely burned off both sleeves. And it was just his radius and ulna bones sticking up. And his head was bent back, and the skin was burned off his face. His eyeballs were burnt out, and his mouth was open, and his skull was burned badly, but not to the point of the first one we found. And I knew it was him, but we didn't identify him yet, so I still had hope. But I knew, looking at his skull, I knew his facial features. I knew he had a very distinct nose. I knew it. I just knew. So now I'm on my knees next to him, just like years prior with that guy Rodney. His name was Rodney, that guy that got murdered. And the way we identified Lewis is ultimately we reached over his body and flipped his radio over. I found his radio, and on the back it said 15C, which stood for Captain of Engine 15.
Yep.
And we knew that was him. So we did what we did, and you had grown men taking a knee around Lewis, because he was that guy. He was my best friend, but you weren't his best friend, because he had about 100 best friends. He was that dude.
Yep.
So we did what we had to do. We had a job to do, so we packaged our guys up. We put them in body bags, and we couldn't fit them in body bags with ease, I should say.
Yeah, you got to contort the body into a position that fits in the bag.
That's right, and
if people who've never tried doing that before, the noises that make, and what's required is pretty gnarly.
And so just trying to get that zipper from toe to head,
Yeah.
it's a task. And here's the shitty thing: you don't want to hurt your friend, and that's what I kept keeping in the back of my mind. It's like, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them, and I don't want to snap his bones off. And so we were as delicate as we possibly could be. And so we got them zipped up. We draped their bodies with the flags. And then one by one, after the coroner came in, my team, we went around and we carried all 9 of them out. And I always say that was the biggest regret of my life, was volunteering to go into that building, because I didn't know how that was going to later affect me. But the biggest honor of my life is also going into that building, carrying them out. And that fucked me up for years. And it was all the trauma that I had been exposed to, and this was just the tipping point. And what was to come after this got very, very gnarly for me in terms of exposure to trauma and depression and suicide. I mean, I was on a suicidal path after this and didn't even realize it because life, what I knew had just changed.
Yeah.
Sorry to get so dark.
No,
That's the picture I'm painting. And
yeah.
when I talk at these events about exposure to trauma and finding your post-traumatic purpose, that's what led me to comedy. You know, I haven't reached superstardom. That's not what I was ever trying to do. But I needed something to make me feel good. That's what comedy later did for me, and it gave me that escape. I never needed an escape before that because I was exposed to all these other things in life, but it just never hit me. And now my brain housing group was full of trauma, and that was my mental filing cabinet, if you will. It fell over, and all the files spilled out, and now it was a mad dash to put them all back in.
Which is easier said than done.
Yes, sir.
I always describe trauma in versions like this cup right here, and everybody. The easiest way for me to understand is that everybody has a different cup, and a lot of the cups they slowly drain from the bottom. If you have time, or you go see a count, you know what I mean? Or if you have a comedy, a healthy outlet.
Right.
But if you keep pouring fluid in, and some things don't bother anybody. So, what bothers me may not bother you, but it could bother the shit out of somebody else. So theirs is getting dumped in, whereas ours has a splash. But if you keep going and keep going and keep going, regardless of who you are, at some point, that shit is coming over the top.
And that cup overfloweth is not a good thing.
It is not. And the world better stand the fuck by when that happens.
We call it clicking off safe, and that's where you get in that dangerous position. And that's what happened to me. It gets very, my life got very nasty after that, and I endangered myself and a lot of people.
How quickly did it go downhill for you after that?
Very, very quickly. And the problem is I didn't see it. I didn't realize it because everything seemed so normal. You know, we in the emergency services community, just like the military, the way we deal with things is remember that old saying? We suck it up, and you deal with it.
Yeah.
And
well, that latter part, the deal with it part, is usually the forgotten aspect.
Right.
It's suck it up or jam it down.
Yeah. So the metaphor I like to use is our brain is like a water balloon with trauma, right? And this suck it up mentality, this is what's happening. I think we're killing more people than we're helping with that suck it up mentality. I get it. I'm a tough guy. I like promoting tough men. I'm not saying you got to go around hugging and kissing everybody. But you also got to be a man enough to admit, like, hey, I might need to talk about some things, because being this tough guy, it's just poison, and holding all of this in is poison. And so I was an advocate in the beginning for not talking to professionals. I was the guy. Yep. I was a bully pretty much. I turned into a bully. And I was like, I would tell guys on my crew, I'm like, if you go talk to somebody, you're a fucking pussy. And I'm like, and you don't even rate to be in this firehouse. It's like, how the fuck can they relate to us? I'm sitting here bagging up my dead friends, and this therapist you're seeing read a goddamn book. How can she tell you how to feel? That's the mentality I had. Well, now as a grown, mature man, it's actually the complete opposite.
I don't think that's uncommon.
No, it's not.
I'd give yourself a pass on that one, or feeling bad about that, because there, especially in my experience, at least in A-type driven communities, there was historically, and I think that it's working its way out of those communities, a stigma associated with asking for help.
Right.
For exactly that reason. Like, I'm overseas, we're banging out targets every night, and I'm going to go talk to somebody who has spent, 10 years in school understanding violence, but has never participated in violence.
Never even seen a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly why I became an advocate about talking about it, because I was this guy. I actually, the way that I explain kind of how I was, it was almost like if I were a closet homosexual playing in the NFL. I had this tough guy image I had to put on, but I had this fucking dark secret that I wanted nobody to know about. And I was hurting inside, and I needed help. I knew I needed it, but I would not tell anybody to save my life, and it almost cost me my life. And that's why I talk about this stuff today. So when I tell you the brain is like a water balloon, and the water faucet is actually the trauma, you have three options with it. You can absorb all that water until that thing explodes, or you can cut back on the trauma, which means decompress and kind of maybe transition out of the profession, if you will, or you can let your guard down a little bit, squeeze some of that trauma out of that balloon by talking to somebody, and that way when more comes in, it doesn't cause it to explode. And every once in a while,
space.
You let it out, you create that space.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I talk about these things.
How did the trauma that you had experienced up to that point, how did it start manifesting itself in you?
So what happened with me is I would start showing up to work. So remember I said we all drank, and that's how we would deal with our problems. It was like me and you would go to the bar, we talk about it, we get fucked up drunk. Well, it started becoming more common, and I started staying out later, and I didn't realize I would start showing up to work intoxicated. I was driving the city's largest ladder truck on the west side, right? Yeah, I'm telling you, it's fucking dangerous. It was so bad, man. Not my proudest moment.
Yeah.
But I would show up, and remember what I told you? My captain was on the body recovery team with me. He never said a fucking word to me because he was hurting inside too, and he was a big man's man. And I'd be damned if he was going to come over to me and open up about his feelings because we just don't do that.
Yeah.
To this day, 13 years later, we still haven't talked about it.
Really?
Really. Because
Have you tried to?
I need to. I need to reach out to him. I've been. This isn't an excuse. I've been on the go so much that
No, it was a
Time-
purely
yeah.
a question, not a judgment.
No, and I didn't think you were, and I think it made me realize, like, hey, light just clicked on. Yeah, I do need to reach out to him, so I will. Maybe he does want to talk to me. I don't know if he's getting help or not, but that's what I'm getting back to. It's guys like us. That's what we do. We
Yeah.
just don't talk about it. It's not like the guy that you run into out in the street who claims to be a special forces guy, and he's seen this and done this. When you start hearing those loudmouths, and you actually who knows something about a little thing or two, it's like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker.
Pretty much that's exactly how that plays out, actually.
I got a Delta Force story that I can tell you that
Tell me more.
do you want to hear this?
Fuck yes, I want to hear it.
Bro, I want to talk
First
about,
off, I love those guys, by the way. But yeah, I need to hear
so
the story.
I do too, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's like putting people. I don't even like saying this. All right, I actually am fortunate enough to know somebody very close to that community. I'll just say, okay, and I've had a long relationship with this person. So this played out. You can't make this up. What I'm about to tell you now. I'm not proud of this because I'm 42 now. This happened when I was 41, and it caused me to get into a fist fight in a fucking locker room at a gym. And I'm not the kind of guy. I do not want to be putting my hands on people. This shit hurts. I'm past that. I'm trying to be better in my life. I don't want to take aggression out. But when you corner me in a fucking locker room, tell me you got a knife and that you're a Delta Force operator and you will gut me from end to end, you leave me with no choice but to defend myself, right?
Yeah.
So
Fullback dive is the only answer. to
am
that.
am I good for
Yeah.
okay, so
Good.
I don't want to seem like this guy like I'm out looking for trouble because I wasn't. But here's what gets me. I don't think I've ever met a Navy man who's not a SEAL. I don't understand who drives
I've never
the
met a
boats.
Buds quitter. Only people
Really?
who were only people who got in fights with their instructors, had shin splints, or some other reasoning other
Yeah.
than I just fucking didn't want to do it anymore.
You don't meet those, right?
Yeah, correct. Or
God
if you do,
damn it,
they
Andy.
are the anomaly.
Don't get me started because I'll throw some people under the bus on this fucker, boy. Everybody I meet is a goddamn SEAL because I do comedy, and after the shows, everybody's like, "Oh, thank you for your service." Because I joke about the Navy, I joke about the all the branches, I joke about them all.
Yeah, and they're all
every-
deserving of it.
Yes, every time my cousin's a SEAL, and I'm like, "Of course he is," because nobody drives the boats, nobody flies the fucking planes, nobody ties the ship up to the dock,
Correct.
nobody makes the chow. They're all SEAls. So have you seen the picture of the Marines? Just real quick, it's.
Probably.
So these guys are in motor transport, right? And it's a picture of them. It shows them standing there holding their weapons, but their faces aren't blacked out. And it says Motor T Marines. And then it has the same picture next to it, and their faces are blacked out, and it says Recon Marines. And it's just that quick. They can fool people in their hometown. Like, boom, look, I told you I'm Special Forces. Can't even see my face.
Yeah. Oh, I'm familiar with the concept of people behaving that way.
Let me go back to this Delta Force story. I haven't had the pleasure of telling too many because I'm kind of fucking embarrassed about it. My wife knows, and she's like, "Travis, you're 41. Why are you getting into locker room fucking brawls with people?" And I was like, "Look,
Sometimes you need to get into a locker room brawl.
I feel an obligation as a military guy. Granted, you can't go fight everybody, but every once in a while, the fight does come to you, and you just kind of got to roll with it. Goddamn it." So, this is what happened. I'm on the treadmill one day, and I see this guy. He walks in the gym, and not only does he have a military-style pack on, he's got that big, remember the big-ass Alice pack?
Yeah. The Vietnam era.
The
Alice
outdated?
pack?
Yeah. So he's got that. He's got a sleeveless shirt on. But it's a sleeveless. I can't remember exactly what it said on the back, but it had some military slogan with kill on it.
Probably some version of Mullen Labe.
Probably. I saw him walk by, and I go, who is this fucking tool bag? And it was just eating me up, dude. I was on the treadmill. I was watching him work out, and I go, I got to say something to this guy. I got to ask him who the fuck he is. So he walks into the locker room, and I go, all right, here's my chance. Now, here's the part I'm not proud of. I should have never done that. I should have just left it the fuck alone.
Yeah.
I should have been professional. So I walk in there and I saw him. I said, hey man, I said, what's going on? And he goes, not much. And I go, you in the military? I just threw that out there. And he just looked at me and he goes, yeah. I said, what branch are you? He goes, I'm not allowed to talk with you about that.
Oh,
and I was
fuck.
like,
that's the number one indicator of a fuck bag.
I can I love how heated you just got right there. Wait till you hear this motherfucker now. You can't make this story up. So I knew that right away. I go, all right, this guy fucking sucks. He's definitely nobody that did what he's about to tell me. So I said, look, man, I was like, I was in the Marine Corps. I was like, I just saw your military bag and your shirt. And he goes, well, yeah, I see your tattoos. Were you MARSOC? And I was like, oh, fuck, thanks for considering me Special Forces. And I go, actually, I'm the only one infantry Marine you're ever going to meet because everybody I meet is fucking MARSOC or recon. I was like, yeah, I was just a fucking dumb grunt. And that was it. He goes, well, I should.
Also, MARSOC didn't exist when you were in.
Exactly. He goes, well, I shouldn't tell you this. You know, you started looking around and shit. And he goes, but this is just between me and you, right? I go, oh, yeah, of course. I was like, dude, I'm a fucking comedian. No, this is about to be with the world if I can make it happen.
Oh, for sure.
He looks at me and goes, I'm Delta Force, just like that. And I know that those guys don't call it that.
Correct.
So, okay. So when I heard that, I was like, all right, cheese dick. And I go, so you are? He goes, well, I was. I got out recently. And I said, oh, really? Because recently tells me that if you were in, I didn't say this, my buddy is definitely going to know you because that's a very small community.
Very.
Area. Extremely small.
It's like 1 degree of Kevin Bacon.
Yes, sir. 1. Not all 6.
Correct.
So I said, that's cool. What do you do now? You know what he told me? Apparently, this is a military this is an actual occupation. He said, I do Overwatch. I'm a contractor. I do Overwatch.
No, he doesn't.
Exactly. So I heard that, and I wanted to be like, no, motherfucker, you play video games. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So I actually rolled with it, dude. I said, look, man, I said, so since you're in Delta Force, I said, what do you guys call that unit? I said, because I actually have a friend over there, and I go, it's so funny. It's a small community, and you could see the old shit light come on. And I go, what do y'all call that? I said, because they don't call it that. And he goes, oh, no, man, it's been a long time since I was like, well, you just got out like 2 years ago. I said, they still called it this. And I think, what is it, CAG or something like that?
Yep.
So I'm no professional, and I didn't want to put it out there prematurely, but I knew it wasn't motherfucking Delta Force. He couldn't tell me. So I was like, whatever, man. So I walked off the piss, and I was going to leave it. And as I was walking out, he goes, hey, we're cool, right? This is just between us. And I go, yeah. So I walked out. I was done with my workout for the day. I went straight to my car, picked up my phone, called my buddy. And I said, dude, and I got the guy's name too. I don't remember it now, but it was hot on my tongue, so I remembered it. And I called him. I said, hey, I said, you're home? He's like, yeah. I said, look, man, this just happened. He just started laughing. He's like, Travis, he goes, you know how many fucking douchebags are out there? I said, I've never met one like this. I said, can you just give me a yay or a nay? Have you ever heard of this guy? He goes, dude, not only have I never heard of him, he's never even been around this community.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
I could have told you that based on the way he described being a part of Delta Farce.
I knew
Which was the unit that he served in.
Farce. I knew that, but I just wanted confirmation.
Yeah.
So,
You wasted a phone call on that one.
I
I
know.
would have skipped that fucking phone call.
So here's what happened. I thought maybe I'll never see the guy again because now I felt an obligation to really call him out when he walks in the gym the next day. Walks right by me, gave me the what's up, and I go, fuck no, what's up? Now I'm pissed. I walk in the locker room, and I say, hey, bro, as I'm just letting you know the cat's out of the bag. And I said, remember my buddy in that community that you said ends with a force that you're a part of? He said, yeah. And I go, I told you I have a friend over there, and actually I got another guy. And I was like, but I lied and told him I called both. I said, neither one of them have ever heard of you. Dude, I've never seen someone go from 0 to fucking maniac in my life this fast, even as a cop. I wasn't prepared for it. I thought he was going to be a man about it and just own it. This fucker flipped a switch and became an animal. I mean, I almost didn't have time to prepare myself. He's like, you motherfucker. He starts screaming at me in the locker room, and the gym's full of people now. He goes, you motherfucker, you don't know who you just fucked with. I'll fucking kill you. And he had his bag open. He goes, I'll pull my fucking knife out and show you, motherfucker. I'll fucking gut you, boy. And now Gut You Boy came out, and that's on some movie. And I'm just like, oh my God. I got my back against my locker, and the exit's off to my left. He's screaming so loud, one of the trainers walks in, right, and looks. And I look at the trainer. The trainer's about to walk out, and I said, hey. And I gave him the, don't you fucking leave.
We're going to need a witness.
Because I knew what. He just pushed a button in me that I knew the fuse was already lit, and I knew this was going to happen. I just needed to wait for the timing. Yep. We had a bench that was separating us. And I said, as that motherfucker stays on the other side of that bench, we're good. I was like, but if he closes the distance, I'm fucking him up. and I wasn't worried about his Delta Force training. Dude, he came over, he crossed that fucking bench, and
Did he still have his backpack on?
no.
God damn it.
Dude, that motherfucker, I don't know what happened. All I know is he was on the ground and I was on top of him really quickly. And this big trainer pulled me. I'm a decent-sized dude. I was about to ground and pound, and I knew nothing about ground and pound, but I've watched a lot of UFC.
Yeah.
So I think I understand what I was about to do. But the fucking trainer takes me and throws me like I was a child. And I hit the lockers. And then the dude gets up and he's like huffing and puffing, right? And so I antagonized him. I threw my hands up. I go, come on, Delta Force, get you some more, motherfucker. I'll show you fucking kill. I was going fucking crazy. And this big fucking trainer, I couldn't get to the dude. And so the dude's scrambling, and now he's running. And now the trainer is like trying to keep me from him. And I'm like, God damn it. He grabs his bag, walks out into the gym, and now he's threatening to kill other people. He's like, I'll fucking kill all you motherfuckers. Like, he was going crazy. You
That's
can't
not a
make
good
this up,
move.
Andy. You can't make this up. So I recently did a professional / motivational speech for the FBI SWAT team. Do you want to know how I made that relationship?
Yes.
There was an FBI SWAT guy on the treadmill who I'd never met.
Just watching this all go down, like,
So when he
fuck.
hears I'm going to kill, he jumps off the treadmill,
Yeah, that's his go button right there.
grabs this dude, and helps escort him out of this fucking building, comes over to me afterwards. He says, dude, what happened? I still don't know this guy's FBI SWAT. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I said, the fucking guy just told me he was going to cut me open. Then he approaches me.
He's fucking commanding
and I told
officer
him-
of Delta Force.
I told him, he said he's fucking Delta Force. The guy said, what? And because
Not
this
Delta
guy,
Force. He's the commanding officer of Delta Force.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Was that Larry the Cable Guy that did that?
I don't know.
One of those dudes.
Yeah.
Somebody. So anyway, my buddy Tim now, he's a friend of mine. He walks outside and talks to the guy. That guy owned it with him out in the parking lot. He goes, well, what happened? He goes, he confronted me about being Delta Force. And Tim goes, well, are you? He goes, no. So Tim tells him, he's like, well, why the fuck would you say that? And he goes, because I already told Tim, he goes, you know that guy knows guys over there? Like, and he's like, I didn't know that. And he's like, well, you fucking idiot. So anyway, I almost get kicked out of the gym. Not my proudest moment. I'm 41. And then I thought about it. I was like, that could have went very south for me. And I have a lot on the line. I can't be putting myself. So now when I meet those tool bags, I just let them go. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a move beyond letting him go, because otherwise, especially if you pin somebody into a corner and they don't know how to, they
Yeah.
don't want to own it,
Yeah.
and they don't see another option, then they go psycho beast mode on you.
And I think that I remember him telling me, he goes, you got one option. Let's get the fuck out of here. And then I was like, that's not in my cards. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, like, dude, you got one option. You can calm the fuck down.
Or I can stuff you in that fucking Civil War era backpack.
That's what, And I'm sitting here thinking, God damn it, how did I get into this? And I was trying to find a way out, but I was like, if he closes distance, I'm fucking him up.
Can you imagine being that person, though, and like your entire life is pretend?
So that's what we found out later, right? So my local police officer friends, they actually learned of the incident and found out more about this guy. Found out he had been committed to the state mental institution.
So he was a cuckoo bird.
No, he's fucked up.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fucked up. So,
But there are people who are not cuckoo birds.
and they believe the story they're telling.
Or they've lived it for so long that their whole personality is wrapped up in this
Yes.
persona that they've created. I can't imagine
I don't know.
what that feels like when you're laying down in your bed at night looking at the ceiling.
Thinking this is all fake. I'm just full of shit.
Or do you're like, fuck, I'm
I'm the-
John Rambo.
He just got women laying all around him like Dan Blazarian or whatever. Just
God. Fuck. So how much longer were you a firefighter after that incident, the body recovery incident?
So right around 2.5 years, and here's what happened to get back to that incident. Everything started going downhill, and now I'm in a position of helping.
It's not downhill. You're just driving a fire truck hammered.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I remember having thoughts, and I talk about this in my book as well. It's I had these thoughts when we would be responding over the Ashley River down to back up the guys on the east side, of driving my entire truck off the bridge. My crew would be inside, and I'm like, all right, we got these air packs, but would they work from the bottom of the Ashley River, and could we get them on in time? Like, I'm having this. That's not normal. You shouldn't be thinking about that, right?
I would consider that an abnormal thought.
Maybe a red flag or something.
A fistful of them, if
Yes.
you will. Just like
Here, if the crew only knew what was going on in my head, right? So, but again, I'm playing this big tough guy role. Like, no, I'm good. I got it.
Well, who knows what they were thinking too? I mean, if they were involved in that incident,
Yeah.
who knows the mental geometry that was going on inside of that truck?
What if they were thinking the same thing? Like, hey, man, I wonder if we could tie all these packs together and breathe each other's air and spear a fish while we're down at the fucking bottom of the river before we die.
It's not an
Yeah.
impossibility that
Right.
they were all thinking that.
So I remember one fire in particular we go to. We had a new guy. It was his first fire. And I remember screaming at him in the truck because we were about a mile out. You could see the smoke. We were a row of townhouses burning, piss ripping fire. And I looked back, and I nicknamed him Sweet Onion. And I was like, the fuck you doing with that goddamn mask on your face? We're in the truck.
Dude, he's just pre-gaming.
I know. He was pre-gaming hard, bro. A little too hard. It wasn't cool. What's
I'm
the
not a
first rule of being
firefighter.
cool?
Yeah, you got to look cool.
You got to look cool. He didn't look cool.
I'm not a firefighter, but I feel like wearing your breathing apparatus in the truck a mile from the fire is a touch premature.
A little bit.
You should at least be on the street that you're going to.
Well, here's what happens. If you don't go on air right away, your face piece just gets fogged up and you don't see shit. So,
because there's no circulation.
so I'm
there
looking
yet.
back and his fucking face piece is all fogged up. Like, look at this stupid motherfucker cap. Look back at him. So anyway, we get to the fire scene. We're on search and rescue. I pull this new guy off and immediately go into this fire. Now, I'd been in tons of fires at this point, so I was very confident in my abilities. But what I didn't take into consideration is a new guy, and I just didn't give a fuck, honestly. And I disappeared in this thing, and I left him
Inside.
by himself. He'd never been in one. And this fire actually got away from us this day, and our chiefs outside called the first evacuation that I'd ever been a part of. Remember, I told you we didn't back out of fires. This is after we lost 9 guys, so now they were a little bit
Gun shy.
exactly. And so what happened was they pulled the trigger, but had they not, I guarantee you we'd have lost 3 or 4, including myself, because we were deep into this bitch, and what we didn't realize is the lid was burning off. So the roof, we call it the lid, it was burning off above us, and that compromises the structure and it can collapse on you.
That makes sense. Okay.
So what happened was they start blasting air horns. We all end up coming out. But I started getting these feelings. I just wanted to die. I wanted to be like my friends. I wanted to just die in a fire, and I wasn't considering what cost it could take. It could cost other guys their lives. That's the selfish behavior I was doing. And
did you recognize it at the time, or did you
No.
just care less about the risk?
I
You're
just
like,
didn't
"Fuck
care.
it."
I was so numb. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And I started getting into the suicidal thoughts because the job wasn't going to take me. I was like, all right, I got to put myself in a position, and I need to do this. So what I was doing is I was drinking so heavily I would get in my car late at night and run up and down the interstates, triple-digit speeds, and the fucking state troopers were never anywhere. I don't know where those guys are, but they weren't on those fucking roads. It's a fucking Waffle House. Goddamn troopers. Anyway, I was hoping I would get in a wreck and wrap myself around a pine tree like the countless individuals I had seen before, but it didn't happen. So what happened one night, I was so mad that I didn't blow a tire, and I didn't have the balls to do it either. I pull up at my house. This is where one of the hardest moments came for me is I pull up at my house, I walk inside, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm just going to blow my brains out. I start drinking. I unload my Glock, and I stick it in my mouth, and I dry fire it. And I wanted to hear that firing pin, and I wanted to know exactly where that trigger pull was, so I knew when it was coming. And I remember I dry fired 3 times, and then I called my mom. It was late at night. My mom, I was crying. I was talking to her. I'm a grown man. I'm fucking crying. And she told me years later she knew that she felt like I was going to kill myself that night, but she didn't want to bring it up because she didn't want, if that wasn't the case, she didn't want me to even start considering it. Yeah, so she was trying to play the safe card.
Yeah.
My dad was asleep, and I wanted to talk to him, but I didn't want to wake him up. And I think I knew my father would have known because we're so tight that he would have probably been in his fucking car on the way up. So I just let him sleep. Told my mom goodbye. I took another big chug of whatever I was drinking, whiskey or something, and I shoved the magazine in the chamber or in the bottom of the weapon and racked around, and I stuck it in my mouth and I pulled the trigger. And for some reason I stopped. I had tension on that trigger, but I stopped, and I think it was I knew exactly where to stop. And I pulled the gun out of my mouth. It's covered and looked like a dick I just sucked or something. I mean, it was covered and slobber. I mean, pretty good blowjob probably, but you got to make light of the shit.
I had a variety of comments that I was going to throw
I could
your
see
way.
you thinking I was trying to beat you to it.
But yeah, it was like fucking very
Yeah.
serious subject matter. So I was
Yeah.
going to I'll tell a dick joke later. It's
Yeah,
fine.
look at you getting all soft trying to give me a pass. No, man, fuck you. So, but it didn't
I
come.
mean, your hobby is your hobby. If
yeah,
that's
right.
what you do on Friday nights, I'm
That's
not going to
right.
judge you.
That's right. That Glock 40 didn't come that night. So I must not be too good, right? So anyway, I put this fucking gun down and I realized, I said, man, I got a problem. I got to talk to somebody. And that was the defining moment where I realized this is getting out of hand. So that's when I picked up the phone, called therapists, and started secretly seeing a therapist, but still playing tough guy around the firehouse. Like, you guys, if y'all talk to somebody, you're a piece of shit. And here I am, burying this.
Talking to somebody.
And I started talking to somebody, and then I found stand-up comedy in 2008. And the crazy thing about comedy is I was sitting on my same couch that I wanted to blow my brains out, and I was watching comedy. And it was so bad, I thought about blowing my brains out again. I was like, this shit sucks, man.
Wasted my goddamn
I know.
life.
I was watching Gotham Comedy Live, right? They're
Is that like a local comedy show?
fuck no, this is in New York.
I don't
It's
know.
on Comedy Central.
I don't think I've ever watched Comedy Central. I have Netflix.
Aren't you friends with like a lot of comedians?
Yeah.
Call them. They'll tell you what this shit is.
All right, but I don't watch it.
All right. Anyway, so
I mean, I've seen Joe and Brian live.
Yeah.
They're fucking hilarious.
I got the best Joe Rogan story. This is fucking hilarious.
Let's hear it.
This guy embarrassed me so badly.
Joe did?
He didn't mean to, but it made me feel like a piece of shit.
Yes.
This is the lowest I'd felt in comedy ever, and all I did is somebody lied to me. Let me get back to this in a second.
Okay.
I've never even told anybody this story. My best friend knows this story. This shit is embarrassing. It might be in my book. Maybe. I know it's not because I didn't put his name in there. So anyway, I'm sitting there watching Gotham Comedy Live, and it was so bad. I remember thinking, dude, I can do this, and I'm going to get on that fucking show. And I'd never told a joke in my life professionally. 8 years later, I was on that show. So
Nice.
I got the comedy bug without getting too long-winded. I started getting paid really quickly to do comedy. And before I knew it, I was a full-time firefighter. I was traveling the world, literally, doing comedy, going to Alaska, just going all over. And I'm paying guys to cover my shift so I can go tell jokes. But still, when I was back home, shit was still really bad for me. It was horrible for me, man. I threatened to throw a fire academy instructor out of our training tower one day. I threw our training instructor up against a wall, told him I'd kill him.
How were you when you weren't at work?
I was good when I was doing comedy, but I
Yeah.
was a mess when I was not.
Do you think it was just that proximity to that
Yes.
occupation and the trauma that had come from it?
So it was my entire world was the fire department,
Yeah.
and everybody in my world was affiliated with the fire department. So I was working in my sick environment.
It was probably inescapable for you when you were
I was
there.
like a cancer patient working at a fucking cigarette factory. You just couldn't get away from it.
Yep.
So when I would go on the road, it gave me that great escape. And I was like, fuck, man, I didn't talk to firefighters, nothing. It just allowed me to escape. And
Yeah.
it turned into something for me. Obviously, I'm no Joe Rogan or anything, but to me, it reached really high levels. I was able to get on TV multiple times, and I produced an album that debuted in the top 10, and I was overseas doing tours for the troops and all of that. But all that came after I lost my career as a firefighter because I got into a fist fight with everybody at my firehouse, and it was one that couldn't be swept under the rug.
Like literally everybody?
Yeah, it was bad. And
What happened?
so after I slapped a guy at one of the funerals, all right, I slapped a guy at one of our funerals. That was a big thing in front of a lot of little kids and family members. This is me coming unraveled.
Yeah.
I was like a kid lashing out, man, and I was sick. I needed help, and nobody would pull me aside and say, hey, man, what's going on? It was just kind of accepted. Then I beat up another one of our guys behind a fucking building, and this was never me pre this incident. I was just the guy that would just show you his cock, like, look at this, and it'd just jump in the shower with you and have fun.
Which is also slightly awkward, but
A little
okay.
bit, but whatever. But I was fun. I was a lot of fun. But I became this monster, man. And what happened the day of my last day at work is I showed up at work sick. And it just came to a head. It's like the fuse had been lit, and the fuse had run out. And I walked up to our firehouse, and one of our new guys, who I had zero respect for anyway, because in my mind at the time, they didn't deserve to be on the job. And the only reason they were there is because our guys were killed, and then we were brought up to meet minimum staffing requirements.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't have been there. So every time I saw them, I just saw a guy that just needed a job, not a guy that really wanted to be there. They questioned everything. They didn't have the culture we had. We didn't question shit. Your captain tells you something, do something. Your engineer tells you to do something. You hop to your feet. Yes, sir. You fucking do it. These guys are like, why do I have to do that? I walk up. Our monument for our nine fallen was very special to me. And I saw a coffee cup sitting on top of it. And so I walked right up to it. You're breathing because you can understand it. I mean, I think
Yeah, I already know where this is going.
anybody like us, would react the same way. So I smashed his coffee cup.
You react the same way if you know what the monument means.
Yeah.
Or you were intrinsically tied to it, or it
Yes.
had an impact on your life.
Yes.
And I also can understand somebody brand new who didn't understand necessarily what it might have meant. Not
Totally
to
get
make an excuse for them.
No.
Like, don't put a fucking coffee cup
Yeah.
on a memorial or a monument. But I can understand to somebody how that would be trivial, and to another person, you've just achieved DEFCON 6, which I don't even think exists. But
So-
you're full fucking nuclear mode.
Yeah, full on, like the button's pushed, it's going
Yeah.
down. And now me, as a far removed from that, I for years I hated this guy for this because I blamed him, and I was the victim here, right? And this is why I lost my job. But I didn't own the situation, and now I look back, I'm like, no, you know what? I take full responsibility for it, because ultimately we are responsible for our actions, and I shouldn't have let another human being dictate how I reacted to the situation. But I was sick and not making excuses. This is just what happened. So I smashed his cup. I snatched the door to the firehouse open. And I told him, I said, you want your coffee cup? Come get it. It's in 1,000 pieces. I said, you ever do something like that again, I'm going to beat your fucking ass. And I meant it. And everybody in my station knew I meant it, because they knew I'd been fucking very physically violent with a lot of people recently. Well, my one other really good friend was in the house, and he just said, Travis, why are you being such a fucking asshole? And I took that as excusing the other firefighter's behavior. And I looked at him. I looked at my captain. I said, Captain, I'm going out sick. And I looked at him because he was a shit starter. I said, you say another fucking word, I'm going to kill you in a minute. And I turned around, told my captain I'm leaving, and I didn't even get out the door. And he said something, and I turned around, and Andy, I can't tell you what happened. I just know I blacked out. This is the only blackout I've ever had in my life. I blacked out, and the next thing I know, I'm outside the fire station crying, full-on crying, and my captain's shaking me, telling me that what just happened in there. Like, I just gotten physically violent with everybody. I guess and I went after him, and people were trying to stop me, and I was hitting people that I cared.
You were just fighting everybody.
Everybody. Cops were called to the firehouse. Normally,
Oh, fuck.
we sweep shit under the rug at firehouse. What happens in the house stays in the house.
Were they coming there to put in their application paperwork? Or?
Yes, and to arrest me.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, so that's a twofer.
Yeah,
so
well,
really,
two
it's
for one.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
My
hey,
cop buddy's gonna be like, "Fuck you."
yeah, fuck yeah, get against the car, you fireman. How's that feel, you fucking piece of shit?
Also, do you guys have an opening now? Here's my business
I
card.
just creamed myself locking up a fireman. So
my cop buddies will be so pissed that I'm like, "We don't put in applications with them, bro. They put them in with us."
yeah, right. Yeah, fuck. We know the truth. My captain, in his infinite wisdom, saved my ass, because those guys were coming to arrest me. He calls me, or he calls my battalion chief. Now, only my captain and my battalion chief knew I was getting help at this point. Nobody else knew. And I told them I wanted to keep it that way. They kept a little secret. So anyway, battalion chief shows up. He just grabs me and goes, get to the fucking therapist right now. These guys are coming to lock you up. So I jumped my car, haul ass to my therapist. That was my last day on the job. It took me years, well over a decade, to get better. I am the best version of myself I've ever been. And I honestly think that's because of all the stuff I went through.
Mm-hmm.
But years later, at some point, I quit feeling sorry for myself, and I accepted everything that had happened. I owned it. And it's like, look, I can't change everything that's happened. It's happened, but I can become better for it. And so that's what happened. It took many years. And now I'm going to tell you about my Joe Rogan story.
Good.
Fucker. You ever had a conversation with someone and they just made you feel like this big?
Usually like on Thursdays.
All right, good. What day is it today?
Today's Wednesday.
Wednesday. So you got another day. All right,
Yeah.
so you can prepare.
It's like,
I didn't have
like
time
once
to
a
prepare.
week though. That shit'll happen to me.
Well, I didn't have time to prepare, because listen to this shit. This was not my fault. So after I left the fire department, I went into comedy full time.
Yeah.
I'd already been doing it 2 years. I was playing all over the place, and I was like, all right, I can still make a living doing this. I'm no longer a fireman, but it's not like I'm out in the cold. So I ran from Charleston, and I ran from my past, and I just put the future in the headlights. I worked as hard as I could. I was on the road 40 weeks a year for 6 years straight.
Fuck.
So I meet this girl, Heidi. This is what happened. I was in Virginia, and I was performing. This girl, Heidi, who's in jiu-jitsu, apparently, comes to me after a show, and she's like, oh, my God, we had the best time, her and her husband. I got to tell you, we know Joe Rogan personally. And at the time, that didn't mean shit to me, because I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I was like, somebody's just dropping names, right? The conversation was left there. Well, the next time I come back through, 6 months later, they showed up again. And she goes, hey, listen, remember we told you we know Joe Rogan? I said, yeah, I remember that. And she goes, well, we talked to him about you, and he's very excited about you. And I was like, do what? Because Joe's like untouchable. You can't even. This guy's the man. Now she's got me interested because I'm working so fucking hard. I'm working these shitty ass venues, and I'm thinking, man, Joe Rogan knows who I am. I'm about to blossom, and I'm going to be playing in better places. She goes, he wants to take you on his tour with him. You see where this is going?
Yep.
I was like, oh my fucking gosh.
I like where this is going.
This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. And I was like, this is one of those stories you hear about that's just magical. I'm like, I know somebody now. She's got a relationship with somebody, but I'm smart enough to know relationships, it takes relationships to make things happen. And I was like, man, this is just right place, right time. And so I'm staring at my phone every day. I'm like, all right, when's Joe going to call? And is he going to be cool? Is he just going to be like, hey, this is Joe? Like, the fucker never calls. So I end up in Hollywood. All right. This is like several months later. I meet up with a manager. This manager's like, hey, I want to take you out, just hit you in some spots in Hollywood or whatever. So he got me on a show in North Hollywood at the Improv, and I'd already been out there several times or whatever. I'm walking up the parking lot. Guess who's sitting in the parking lot next to Chris D'Elia?
I'm going to say Joe Rogan.
Fucking right there in all his glory. Just sitting in the parking lot.
Did he have a small aura around him?
You could see it. Yeah. in the metal chairs they were sitting in. So him and Chris D'Elia are sitting there having a conversation, and I thought about it. I said, man, this is my chance. Now he can put a name with the real face. And I was so fucking nervous.
Time to connect some dots.
It is, man. I was like, you know what? Why wait for him? He knows me. I'm going on his fucking tour. I'll just go introduce myself. That's what I did. Andy, you should have seen this motherfucker's face. You can't make this shit up. I walk right up to him. He's mid-conversation with Chris D'Elia. I'm nervous as shit. All right, because I'm not a starstruck person. By this time, I'd worked with Kevin Hart. I'd met.
For sure. You were peripheral to a lot of these people.
Yeah, but now this was my chance. I mean, I was like, all right, you know, I'm going on tour with this guy. I'm going to be on his bus and shit. And I'm going to probably be sitting next to the UFC ring with him talking shit, you know.
You might have a commentator job before you know it.
You know, and I was just like, let me just go talk to this guy and get this over with. So I walk right up and interrupt their fucking conversation like a douchebag. I said, not only, I acted like I knew him too, and not to be a douchebag, but I was just like, hey, Joe, I'm Travis. You know, I know you talked to Heidi.
I know you've heard quite a bit about me.
Well, I was like, you know, you talked to Heidi about me, and he's looking at me. He's holding my hand. He's like, he has this look, and the way he looked at me, I knew right then, fuck, this girl is full of shit. And so I still tried to play it off, though, and he goes, Heidi. And I go, yeah, man. I don't drop last names, but I said her last name. And I say, she's in Virginia, and she said, you know, like, y'all roll together. I tried using the fucking terminology. It's like, y'all roll together, and that you were interested in me for comedy, doing comedy. He goes, bro, do you know how many fucking people I know? And I go, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I just walked away. I felt like the biggest piece of shit. That's my Joe Rogan story. And that taught me something, though. Don't ever believe shit people tell you.
That is a fucking good lesson to learn.
It's phenomenal, because I would never walk up to somebody again, because all that girl was trying to do was impress me with some bullshit. They don't know him. You know? They don't know him from anybody. My best friend busts my balls all the time about that. So anytime I would travel out to LA, he's like, did you run into Joe again? I'm like, fuck off, dude.
I think you and I kind of met, though, because the last time I was with Joe, I was like, you guys need to make fun of fucking vets more. And it was either him or Callan. I'm like, you guys suck. Like, I'll give you the information. Like, here, go say this, because vets are
that's what
retarded.
I do. I lay into him. I love it.
Well, that's how I think you and I originally got connected, because people are like, hey, you need to hit up Travis. So I was like, fuck, all right, let's do this.
So, actually, I reached out to you.
You did, but you weren't the only one, because your name had come up to me 4 times that day. And then I saw you. I was like, oh, fuck, well, this makes it relatively easy.
I was woken up. A guy that follows me on Instagram follows you, and I definitely heard of you, but this is why I don't approach people anymore. It's because of the Joe Rogan story. I just stay the fuck away, and I'm like, I'll just wait. You know,
you had a different Joe Rogan experience. You see what I did there?
Yeah, that was cool. That was good, dude. He should do a show on that. And oh my god, just tell all the shitbag things like that. But so Scott. This guy, Scott, hits me up. He follows me on Instagram. He's in the emergency services industry, too. I'm not giving him a plug or anything, but, yeah, he listens to you religiously. I wake up. I hear my phone go off. It's like 1 in the morning, all right?
That's not a good time for friends to call.
I'm
That
fucking
means
East
somebody's
Coast.
fucking dying.
I know. Dude, Dick, it was 10 o'clock your time. I'm East Coast. It's 1 my time.
Yeah. Don't hit me up that late. That means it's an emergency.
So I look at it, and it goes, dude, you have got to get on Andy's podcast. You would fit perfectly just because of your background and your fucked up past and all this. And I remember laying there, and I woke my wife up. And I said, look, because I'd heard about you. And I said, I'm going to message this guy, Andy. And I said, I don't want to. I was like, because of that dickhead Joe. And I said, but I feel like windows of opportunity present themselves. You have to explore them. You have to. So she goes, well, what are you going to do? I go, well, I'm going to be that fucking douchebag, and I'm going to message him. So I messaged you, and I woke up the next morning, and I walked in there and showed her the phone, because you actually messaged me back. I go, look at this. And you seemed kind of excited about it, not, hey, fuck off. And I was thrilled to death.
Dude,
So,
how often do you get the chance to sit down and make fun of other vets?
you don't.
I tell Joe and Brian, I'm like, you're missing, they're an
With that-
underrepresented.
With that platform they have,
Oh, my God.
give me that platform. I will.
Here's the problem, though, is that they feel, and probably rightfully so, uncomfortable crushing on vets, given that
When
they
they
don't
didn't do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was it who did was it Bill Burr? He went after him a touch with like the boarding the aircraft.
Yeah.
Like, who's he going to be? The fucking guy? And, like, but I think that's about as far as they can take it.
Yeah, I understand that point.
Yeah.
That's why I lay into him, and you know what I like? Every once in a while. Here's the cool thing about our community. We don't give a fuck. We're so friendly. We get it. It's just busting balls. You know? I talk about the Marine Corps being the men's department of the Navy, right? And
you know what's funny is
What?
I actually describe it exactly that way.
it's an old joke. People said it since the 40s and shit, but I have people they'll yell at because I do a joke about the Navy and I fuck them up. And before I can get to
I don't
it,
even know the joke, but I guarantee you it's deserved.
right. And I talk about doing a show where a sailor is like, oh, we're the men's department, or you guys are Department of the Navy. And I was like, yeah, the men's department, and the fucking audience is shitting themselves. And then I do a couple riffs after that. I fuck with the Air Force, and I love when people go, I was like, military in here? A guy will raise a hand, and they're like, Coast Guard. And I'm like, yeah, that don't fucking count. And I'll go somewhere else, and civilians get pissed, but military laughs their ass off at them. And I'm like, I look at them, I'm like, what branch were you in? They're like, I wasn't, but that's not right. I'm like, well, you can't fucking judge this
you
joke.
don't get a
Shut the
vote
fuck
here.
up. Yeah, you don't get a vote. So
Enjoy your cocktail and
eat
your
dicks.
appetizers.
But I've had several occasions. Someone from the audience will come up to me afterwards, and they're like, "My father was in the Navy, and I don't appreciate that joke." And I'm like, "Is your
dad
father
would.
here?"
Yeah.
No. I'm like, he'd fucking shit his pants laughing at it. And I was like, "So don't worry about it. Go tell it to him. He'll high five you.
And he
Thank
would.
me later." And he would.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know. I think I just think it's an underserved population that could be just detonated and should be detonated.
I'm trying to reach them, man, because I think what it is too is I'm doing all these private events now to where I'll talk about the realness of, finding post-traumatic purpose. I talk about what I've been through, and there's so much more. We haven't even scratched the surface on this, but I do comedy events in the evenings after these conferences, and it's so cool because I used to just go speak, and now I figure this thing, I'm like, wait, I'm already there.
Yeah, you might as well double
There's
up.
nothing going on, so now I speak in the morning. They get the real, like, oh fuck, this is real, and then they come that night and they shit their pants laughing, and it's kind of like, wow, this is full circle. Like, you can really see how this guy was in the gutter, now he's having the time of his life. I'm past all of that stuff, but
And how perhaps they're tied together.
right, and so I get asked to do these private things for different police conferences, fire conferences, military organizations, and stuff like that. And I feel like, look, I have a voice. I'm not the only voice for them, but I have one, and it relates exactly to what we do. Like, all the shit that you think is funny,
Oh, God.
that's my audience. I realized a long time ago, LA is not my audience. New York is not my audience. I get it. Everybody in between, that's my shit.
Those should be your audiences because people should think what I think is hilarious is fucking hilarious because my sense of humor is amazing.
Dude, I've been on stage in both cities multiple times, and it's so funny because when I go up, and also when you're not a huge name, you do get the kind of, hey, prove it to me thing. But when I go up and I start doing Marine jokes, police jokes, especially now, fire jokes, it's kind of like, yeah, motherfucker, whatever. But you get those select few that don't really care for you. But for the most part, I'm very well received. I like it.
What I will say about Joe is that he's like the nicest motherfucker ever.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
At all. My experience with him, I caught him off guard.
He probably was telling Chris not to hit up girls that are under 18.
They were probably in the middle of something really good.
Like telling him not to hit up girls under 18.
Exactly. But he wasn't a douchebag to me at all.
Yeah.
I was a douchebag for approaching him the way I did. And honestly, he handled it. I couldn't imagine having to experience things that he experiences and people coming up to him and having to be polite about everything. So I get it.
Dude, we were in an archery shop in San Diego, and Dudley was there, and he was teaching Jocko how to shoot. And I feel bizarre in these, because even in like the SEAL community, right? We went to Joe's comedy show that night, and at Joe's comedy show,
In San
people are
Diego?
like, yeah, it was at one of the Topanga or one of the casinos.
Okay.
But people are like seeking out Jocko to take pictures. So there's a level of like celebrity status in that community. And then at this bow shop, I watched Joe try to get to the bathroom, and it took him like 30 minutes to go 30 feet.
I wonder if he wears a diaper sometimes.
He just, you know what though? He'll talk with everybody. Like, he's super nice. It's bizarre. I met him randomly through Tate Fletcher when he told Joe, he's like, hey, I got a guy, I should come on your podcast. And next thing I know, I'm sitting there. First time I'd ever met him was when he hit the record button.
Really? Are
Yeah.
you serious?
Yeah.
See, I feel like Joe knows who I am because I've submitted to his podcast multiple times, never heard anything back. And I think he remembered that name. It stuck. He's like, oh, fuck no, not that guy.
Yeah, I randomly met Tate on the first podcast that I was ever a guest on. And then I met Callan because The Fighter and the Kid was the second one I was
Right.
ever on. And then Joe's was the third that I had ever sat down in front of. And we just stayed in touch and became
That's great, man.
friends over the years. And I mean, it was his idea for me to start he's probably birthed thousands of podcasts. I've heard him say it. You're like, oh, you should start a podcast. People are like, well, fuck me. Joe Rogan just said I should start a podcast. So I'm going to start a podcast.
I listened to y'all's episode. I was on that treadmill, and I was looking for the Delta Force guy to come back in. I was like, yeah, this is a good episode. I'll kick some ass today.
But he's been cool. It's
That's good.
when I was, trying to figure out how to do the studio, I was like, God damn it, who do I know that knows how to do this stuff? I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. I'm going to get a hold of Jamie.
You might know somebody.
Yeah, it was cheating. It was essentially cheating. But yeah,
Relationships, man.
he's a cool motherfucker. He's
That's
one of the
great.
coolest dudes that I've ever met that's in that orbit. I don't know that many people who are in that orbit of, and I'm not starstruck either,
Right.
but I've been around enough people that I would say that are like kind of in that sphere that he's in. A lot of them eat dick as a human being. They're not awesome.
Dude, you want to hear some more stories?
Yes.
Without names, though?
No, I need names.
Nah, I can't do that, man. I got a good one for you, though.
Send it.
I can tell you afterwards who it was. So this guy's a very well-known guy.
What occupation?
Comedy.
Okay.
Saturday Night Live
Okay.
comedian. All right. I'm agreeing with you. There's so many good dudes out there, and I've met them at all levels. There's so many good ones, but then there are those, and this is one. So I get hired to go to Jacksonville, Florida to open for this celebrity. And anytime you get to work with a known name, it's cool because you're like, all right, you get to share a stage with somebody who's been doing this professionally for a long time. It's a neat experience, man. It really is.
And relationships do matter.
I'm a firm believer in relationships. You have to have relationships. You can't do anything on your own, and you always have to be willing to help other people, right? It's not just take. It's fucking take and give, right? And it's give more than it is fucking take. So, like, you've given me an opportunity to be here. You've given me this wonderful beverage. You've given me this. What have I given you? A fucking shitty book. So I need to give some more. Where's my wife? You want me to call her up?
She's off with the kids.
Yeah,
Doing something awesome in Montana.
So, this fucking place. Don't even get me started. So,
Don't lose track. We're telling shitty stories about celebrities.
this is one of my favorites, okay? So I go to Jacksonville, and the show's about to start. This guy's late getting to his own show. I'm there. I like, as a courtesy, to ask, hey, and I'm already headlining everywhere I play anyway to this point. So I understand, like, look, I'm being hired just to come in and open for you. I'm not trying to steal your show. This isn't about me, but this is about you, and it's about me respecting your show. So do you have any do's or don'ts that you would not like on your show?
Yeah.
Most of the time, dudes are like, do whatever the fuck you want to do. But as a courtesy, I always like to ask.
And that seems super legit and professional.
Because you'd be surprised, every once in a while you do run across that person. You're like, well, what do you do? And it's like, oh, fuck, here we go.
Well, I can imagine if you didn't ask him, though, you could step on somebody's dick by accident, and then that would not be good.
You really could. So anyway, I asked this guy, I said, hey, man, look, this is who I am. Do you not want me to do anything? So first thing is, well, what do you do? And I go, well, I was a Marine, a cop, and a fireman. I said, I do a lot of stuff about that. I do some family stuff. I'm married. I talk about kids. He's like, nah, it sounds good to me. Do it. Go ahead. So, okay. So I went out there, and I didn't put my foot on the throttle on the show. I just went out there and I was like, all right, my job is not to be the headliner. My job is to have a good time.
And you're kind of teeing it up for the
That's
guy to
it.
follow you, right?
And that's all I did. I didn't crush it. I just went out there and did a good job. Here's the problem. This dude was a Saturday Night Live comedian, right? He's not a professional stand-up. There's a difference between acting in front of a camera and an audience.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And there's a difference between the art we as stand-up comedians do, right? It's a whole different ballgame. So it's almost I don't need to paint pictures for you. You understand?
Well, I do
You're
a lot of
smart,
public
dude.
speaking.
Yeah.
And it's not stand-up comedy, even though I do say ridiculously dumb shit most of the time by accident. Sometimes it nets a laugh. Other times it's an uncomfortable look.
Right.
But the ability to read an audience and know when you need to bring it down a notch or pick it up, or you can it's not the same as looking into a
Totally
fisheye
different
lens.
ballgame.
Yeah.
So I come off stage at night. I walk out. I set up my merchandise table out in the front lobby because, and then I'm trying to get all the merchandise ready, for when he comes out, if he sets anything up. Bro, I'm out there setting up. He's not even on stage 20 minutes. The fucking doors are coming open and people are walking out. This is 300 something seats. People are walking out in groups.
And I'm assuming this is a relatively well recognizable name.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not getting the experience that they thought they were going to get.
Yeah. You can see the disappointment on her face. So what they start doing, they're coming up to my merchandise table. I'm not even completely set up. I still have shit in my bags. They're like, hey, we want to buy your stuff. Can we take pictures? I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm just like, yeah, all right. And then they start talking. We wish you were still up there. That guy sucks. And I'm like, oh shit, he sucks that bad? And I start looking, bro, I'm telling you, 100 fucking people walked out of this show.
That's rough.
So after the show, he doesn't even come out into the audience at all, or to where the people are gathering for merchandise. They got this whole booth set up for him to take pictures. He doesn't even come out there. I watch him peek his head around. He just walks off, and it goes back to wherever the fuck he went. So I stood there. I was like, all right, I guess I'm the fucking guy. So everybody's buying my I sold so much fucking merchandise that night, dude. I could have fucking retired. So
That's awesome.
So the next night, I come in, the owner, the venue's there. He pulls me aside. He goes, hey, what happened last night? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, so-and-so said that he wants you fired from the show. And I said, what? He goes, yeah. He said, you tried to steal the show.
Oh, fuck.
And I said, what are you talking about? And this guy knows me very well. He goes, Travis, look, I'm not taking his side. I think we both know what this is about. He goes, I wasn't here last night, but I heard from the staff. And he goes, I'm here to watch tonight. He goes, I want you to go and do exactly what you did last night. Can you do that? I said, exactly? He goes, yeah. I said, middle of the road it goes. Stayed on. I was still had a job Friday night. Here we go. First show Friday night. I go up there. Same thing. Same fucking thing happened. People start walking out. And then they saw the owner, and they know this guy was the owner. And they're like, that guy's fucking horrible.
Jesus.
Right in front of me, I'm standing there, and I'm just like, oh, shit. And now I'm like, well, fuck him. If he was such a bitch to go and try to get me fired, I'm trying to make a living. This guy's already made millions. I'm out here trying to feed my fucking family, being respectful to you. And I'm not even hitting him hard. You know what the fucking owner says to me then?
Well, hopefully he told you to go out there and put the foot on the gas.
Bro, he told me, lay it out. Lay it out. Yes. He gave me permission because he knew exactly what I was capable of doing. And he goes, go fucking do what you do. I go, you fucking got it. Second show Friday night, I went out there. It wasn't the greatest, but Saturday first shows are always the best. So I already had his permission. I was like, I'm going to blow fucking doors off the fucking place. Then I started promoting the event too. I wanted my people to come out because there were still some tickets left and shit.
Yep.
So when you get your own people, I was like, fuck this douchebag. Saturday night, it was unfucking real. It was a sold out show. Guy had a couple people show up, bought the last few tickets, whatever. Andy, when I tell you half that fucking audience walked out when he was on stage, half of them. And
he's seeing that too, right? Like you're able to see
you
that.
can't miss it.
Okay. Just want to make sure he's not oblivious to what's going on.
I hired somebody to help sell my merchandise so I could go watch the rest of this. I wanted to watch him. You know what he did when he was on stage? This motherfucker was bombing so bad. We call it eating dicks, right?
Yeah.
He was eating.
I've heard Joe use that phrase many times.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. He was at the dick buffet, if you will.
Yeah. Was he double fisting?
Double fisting. Golden Corral. Just fill that fucking thing full of dicks. This guy, to this point, I hadn't seen him. I didn't watch his show because I was always setting up and everything. I've seen open micers that would smoke him. So,
really?
Yes. I mean, it was that bad. It was insulting to the trade. I was like, wow. So this is what he did. As he was closing, he just fucking looks at the audience that was left and goes, I'm going back into my room to kill myself, and turns around and punches the wall as hard as he could. Because I just laid the fucking hammer down. They wanted nothing to do with it. And he just disappeared. He never came out. And the fucking owner was laughing. We were out front. And he goes, do it again. Do it for the rest of the shows. So here's where this comes back full circle. I stayed the week. I made fucking great money doing merchandise. I got my bullshit little pay for opening up for him.
Is that where more of the money is, the merch, than the actual performance?
Yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that world. So.
In the comedy clubs,
Okay.
yes. Unless you're
doing Netflix special, I'd imagine you're getting a
unless
check
you
for
have
that.
last names.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
the
when you
man
have-
whose name will not be spoken.
Yeah. If you have a last name like mine, yeah. So anyway, but in the private events, as you know, with speaking, the funding is usually there. It's
up front. You don't have
good.
to sell merch.
Yeah, it's
or you
good.
could, yeah.
Yeah, you could. And you can do very well. So anyway, so the agent calls about a week later. Hey man, we got a spot in Charlotte. So and so's coming to Charlotte. You want to come open for him? I was like, what the fuck? They didn't catch wind of this?
Oh, it's the same guy?
Same dude.
Oh, no.
Man, I'm fucking like a pit bull now. I want blood. I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, I'll cancel anything I got to come do this. It was like 3 nights, 5 shows or something. Like it was a Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. Yeah, so 5 shows. And so I get there, man. I get to the hotel early. I'm washing. I'm all soaped up. Rinse off. I'm drying off. I'm getting dressed. And the fucking phone rings. And it's the agent. I was like, what the fuck's he calling for? I pick up. And I was like,
I know why he's calling.
why? Well, take a
Guys,
guess.
he's going to say, hey, man, we don't need you anymore.
That's exactly why he was calling. That's funny. Funny you say that. So he fires me right there. He goes, look, so-and-so stepped off the plane and found out that you're his opener. He said he refuses to go on if you share that stage with him. He
What
goes,
a fucking
That's a
cunt
fucking-
level of insecurity.
so you're there. Now I'm pissed. Now I want to kill the man. And I'm like, well, fuck. I want to fucking choke him out. Like, because I don't even do jiu-jitsu. But goddamn, I was a professional that night. I was like, I'll fucking get him. So pissed me off, but he apologized. He goes, look, man, we're just going to pay you for tonight. And he goes, take this as a compliment, not an insult. He goes, I'm not upset with you. He goes, it fucking sucks that he's this big of a douchebag and can't. He goes, it says more about him than it does about you. So just go with it. And so I took it as a compliment, but it was kind of funny because then I had a 3-hour drive back home with barely just gas money. And I committed my whole weekend to destroying this guy.
Was he just like totally cardboard stiff when he was up there, just basically doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
He had no jokes. He was just trying to woo people with who he was.
That's
like
not going
he
to keep
thought-
him in their seats.
He thought, I'm going to step on stage for 45 minutes and just these people are just going to be drooling over me. And then, yeah, it was horrible. And I don't like talking bad about people, but because he was a douchebag to me, I'll talk about the incident. I just won't give him his name.
Until after we hit the record button. The second time, which turns it off.
Oh, you said that. I was like, damn, did you not record? We were just talking about that.
The second time.
The second time, I get you
Yeah.
off, back on.
How cathartic have you found comedy when it comes to dealing with the stress?
Fucking love it. I used to do my tour used to be called Funny Under Fire Comedy Tour, and I used to initially, before I started doing speaking engagements about all the stuff I'd been through, I was very I would talk about it with news agencies. So when I would show up to promote shows or whatnot, I'd get on local morning radio shows and television shows, and they were curious because they knew the story of the Charleston 9. They wanted me to talk about it. But I was very I had walls up. I wouldn't go into detail because it was still hard. But comedy, we used to do this thing called laughter is the best medicine, because it truly is, as cliche as it sounds. It was like crack for me. When I took it, I would hit that stage just like you talked about, jumping off of them fucking base jumping and everything goes away in that split second.
You're ultra present, your ability to think.
You're there.
Yep.
And I'm not on stage. I'm not worrying about my bills. I'm not worrying about Joe Rogan anymore. I'm not worried about any arguments back home. I'm not thinking about my dead friends. I'm just in that moment, and I'm on stage, and people are laughing, and I'm having a good time. I can't explain it.
And that's
because
I
you
know,
get it.
and but for me, comedy wouldn't work, right? And that's where it's so the stress and the impact that it, at least in my opinion, the stress and the impact that it has on the human body is incredibly unique. And finding that valve that releases the stress is also unique. So I've actually found it now through jiu-jitsu too, because you're simulating murder with somebody that you trust.
That's hot.
And I can tell you what happens when you're thinking about your bills. You get choked the fuck out.
You're like, I'm so stressed about these bills. I'm dizzy.
Yeah, I wonder if I got.
I'm seeing black.
Yeah, so it doesn't work. So you have to put that shit aside. And sometimes for me, it's a little bit more mechanical. Like you have to force to put it aside. Whereas base jumping, I don't have to force it at all because you're literally sitting with your toes over the edge with little piss dribbles coming out. This is a small piss ring, which is why you go with darker wingsuits and pants.
So I heard you talk about that, and it made me laugh because in my book I talk about when I was on stage one time, I pissed, and it was see-through. It's obvious. And I was very new in comedy, and I was trying to piss, and you know how you think you got it all, but you didn't?
Yeah.
The MC's calling my name, and I zip up, and I'm hauling ass, and it came out, and it started growing when I was on stage, and I could feel it. And I had to address it with the audience, and it's in my book. You got to buy the book to know that full story. But that was probably like I was on stage under 10 times at that point. That's
Dark
adrenaline.
Pants.
Yeah.
Dark pants defeats that. My jumpsuits are all dark red, black. It hides the pee stains. And the sewing machine leg just sits at a little singer foot that's like, because you're scared out of your fucking mind. Or you should be, because if you're not scared, you probably shouldn't be there.
If I jumped with you and you had me like on your front, it would be like that Dumb and Dumber episode where I just feel the warmth behind me.
I would be fine. You might
pee all over my back.
I wouldn't need to pee on your back because I've done thousands.
Well,
of
could we do it
tandems.
face to face and I could just pee all over you?
So that's European style. We could.
They really do that?
No, not at all.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd be European, all right. You're peeing all over your stomach.
Fuck.
Yeah, that took a weird turn.
That's okay. I dig it. So, finding your post-traumatic purpose.
Mm-hmm.
When you speak to, and I think it's awesome that you speak to firefighters and first responders because there is still that stigma. The SEAL community is the same way. The most powerful things that I have seen are when other guys get up in front and they're like, listen. They tell stories like you were talking about, the impact that it had. Because at work, you're just like, fuck, I just want to be like Bob.
Yeah.
Bob's awesome on the range. Bob's awesome on target. And then Bob comes into work one day and is like, oh, by the way, I'm a functioning alcoholic. I'm in debt over my head. I'm basically going to, have bankruptcy. And I'm exiting my third marriage. Like,
yeah, that's it. The marriage is gone, yeah.
And so Bob's fucked up, but then he talks about the things that he's doing to change his life. What do you recommend to those communities that you talk to?
When it comes down to this stuff, you have to take a real hard look in the mirror. And I think the hardest thing is accepting the way things are and understanding that you are different. Because I think we are forever changed, some of us. And I think what we do is we try to say everyone around us is fucked up and we're normal. At least that's what happened with me.
I think you're supposed to be forever changed by being on hundreds of fatality scenes. I don't think that the human body or psyche that it's possible to be exposed to that and not be changed. Unless you're a sociopath, which is a different door of problems you're going to have to deal with anyway.
Yeah. So with me, I was finding fault with everything around me, my wife. I got
Other
to a
than
point.
yourself?
Yep. I wouldn't take a look in the mirror and I wouldn't address it. I wouldn't accept who I was as a man, who I was becoming. I ruined friendships. We could talk all day on this. I ruined some serious friendships. I confronted people that I loved because they were fucked up, not me. And I had this hair trigger. I had this short fuse. Because of all of the trauma I'd been through, nobody understood me, and it made it very frustrating. I couldn't even be around my own kids when they were very young because they would scream so much. It would put me in a place, and my wife wouldn't understand. I'd walk out of the house, and I'm just like literally about to have a fucking breakdown. But I'm such a strong man, I can't let her see that. So I bury it, and I bury it until I implode on myself. One day I was outside grilling chicken, and she comes outside. It's hard to talk to people you can't relate to. I can talk to you about this because I'm sure you have similar stories. You've been in similar situations. I'm grilling chicken, and my wife's like, what's your problem? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're just so cold. You're just standing there staring off into space. What did I do now? And now she's making it confrontational.
Yeah. And the reality is it has nothing to do with her. You're
Nothing.
trying to deal with your own shit. Yeah.
So you know what I was thinking about? I told her, I didn't tell her, but I told her, I said, just go away. I don't need this right now. And so it turned into a thing. I was listening to that chicken, and I was trying to get it off the grill. It was sticking, and I was thinking about my friend Lewis's face. That's what I was thinking about. So how do you take that and blossom in a beautiful relationship? It's hard. It's very hard when you've had stuff like this happen. But ultimately, I'm the bad guy because now I have an attitude. I'm just not willing to share what I'm going through with you because you wouldn't understand it. So I think a lot of times we take this out on our spouses, trying to protect them from it. We keep them in the dark, and that's what creates that wedge, and it actually drives them further away because I've ruined my marriage. I don't say that openly. I do now. I mean, it's hard for us. My wife is a wonderful, wonderful, patient, loving woman.
Yeah.
But she's about fucking out of it.
I'm
And
14 months into a divorce.
really,
And listening to you describe that situation, that absolutely, in my opinion, resonates with a lot of the reasons that we cannot be together.
Yeah.
It got to a point where we were very, and I don't talk about the details because I believe that the other side of the coin deserves a voice. And
Yes.
she, you know what I mean? Like,
For
it's
sure.
not for me to say. But what I would say is your description was very apt, and that led to a lot of the reasons where we became unhealthy for each other, legitimately unhealthy for each other.
yeah. And it would she would do things not intentionally, but cause certain stresses with you. And it was,
Oh, and she may not, I don't think she realized what they were, because I can think of
thing.
myself. I mean, I would be very quiet oftentimes, and there were points in times where it's just, there were certain things that would get me to have probably a non-linear reaction to the severity.
yeah.
Something not very severe, but my reaction would be anything but not severe.
So in our community, we're not mine and yours, but the community that my wife and I were around, we're not around dudes like me with backgrounds like me. Everybody thinks, oh, Travis is a comedian, he's a lot of fun. But then they find out real quick, I'm not. I'm that dude on stage. I like to have fun. It's my outlet. But when I'm around a bunch of people drinking and people that are really not like you and I, it's hard for me to converse successfully with them because I'm a little dark. They don't understand things the way that I see the world. They don't view it the same way. Not to say that they're wrong. I wish I could live in the bubble that they lived in. I really do. I wish I could just let go and be as happy-go-lucky as them. But it's impossible for me because I've lived in the real world.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of unfortunate things. And case in point, my daughter recently was on a beach. We were on a beach. I burned a relationship because of this. This was not long ago. We're on the beach. I let my daughters run off with a couple of other adults and their kids to the other end of the beach, and I never do that. I never let my kids out of my sight. But for this one time, my wife even said, "Hey, you're going to let them go?" I said, "Yeah, I need to loosen up a little bit." So I tried. Problem was all the adults were drinking. Well, my daughter, my youngest one, got away from them and was out of everybody's sight, cut her foot on some oyster shells, and was by the water, by the big water.
Mm-hmm.
She could have easily gotten in that water and drowned. Something in my gut told me, go check on your kids. So my wife and I start going, and I see my daughter by herself, abandoned on the beach, bloody fucking foot. Looked like she just stepped on a damn bouncing Betty. I mean, it was gushing blood. She was laying next to the water. There's no adult in sight. Nowhere.
Yeah.
I lost my shit.
As would I.
I didn't care about her foot. That's funny you say that, Andy, because here's the thing. I was the bad guy in this.
I
Because-
look at that like the other adults have an inherent responsibility to watch out for those that are unable to watch out for themselves. But that's an atypical mentality.
Listen what happened. And I had the same thing happen. So we get over to my daughter, and I'm like, are you okay? She's screaming for her mama. And all I could think of was the people that I've seen die screaming for their parents, right? And I've seen that happen. And it fucked me up. So finally, the two ladies that were watching them, we didn't even know them. They were friends of our friends. They came over, and I go, where were you? And I talked to her very sternly, and she snapped back. You could see, like, she's not used to that. And she goes, she just got away. I go, that's inexcusable. I go, you were responsible for these children the second that you left with them. And I go, it's unacceptable that my daughter's laying here, and you were not here with her. And she starts crying. She's like, I'm sorry. And I go, no excuse. I was pissed, so I walked off.
Yeah.
I walked back to the group of our friends who brought these ladies out here. And I started telling them what happened. Well, the lady is behind me. She walks up and she looks, she goes, she's not even our fucking kid. And she goes, you're her father. You're responsible for her, not me. I didn't even ask them to come. And I looked at her and I said, you have no idea who you're talking to right now? And she goes, what are you going to do, hit a girl? Now she's antagonizing me. I said, no, I'm not going to hit a girl. I go, where's your fucking husband? Just like that. The switch was flipped.
Yeah.
And she goes, he's overseas. And I go, well, that's too fucking bad. And I was pissed, and I realized this is getting out of hand. And I heard what she said. I am her father. She is my responsibility. So I took that. I took my hat off, took my glasses off. I got on a knee in the sand, and I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry I took that tone with you. It's unacceptable for me to talk to you in that manner. I said, you're right. that is my daughter. And I said, that was the first time I've ever let her out of my sight. And I said, and that's what happened. And I said, I don't expect you to understand the world I come from. I said, I don't. And I said, that took me to a very dark place. And I said, but that doesn't give me the reason to talk to you the way I did. And I tried being a man and owning that shit. And you know what it did? The other girls are like all pissed off about it and holding it against my wife.
Well, that's not on you. If they are unwilling to, it's there's two hard things in that situation. One is owning your behavior, but the other one that you can't control is her receiving that apology.
Right.
If she's unwilling to take that apology, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, but what I'm saying is it's dudes like me who are around people that are not like me. I come off as very abrupt sometimes, where most men would have
I would
never,
probably get the same description, I would imagine.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so similar instances with other things where I just couldn't keep a lid on it because I know right from right, and I accept nothing but the best from people. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And unfortunately, I have a hard time keeping a lid on that. And, that's caused a little wedge between my wife and I too.
Yeah.
And it makes me regret sometimes. I don't regret who I am, but I look at my past and I'm like, my past has built me into who I am. I don't make excuses for it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately it's my reality that I live in. I know what could have happened in that situation. That's my kid.
Yeah.
And had that have been that girl's kid, she would have felt the same way. But it is what it is.
Yeah, the past experiences, man, what I would say one of the big differences is that you're doing something positive with them. That doesn't mean you're going to be perfect in your own, personal conduct. Believe me, I fall short of the expectations or standards that I would have for myself often. And yeah, I don't know. I find the same thing often. I do my best to communicate with people with a different background, but I struggle and there's a disconnect. The things that a lot of people think are very serious, to me, they don't register a lot of the times. The stuff that people want to argue about, I don't have much of an interest in arguing about it. I just don't fucking care.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's like, I don't, I'm like, okay, like feel that way. Go ahead.
I don't think people understand how real this world gets, and I think people argue over a bunch of trivial bullshit anyway, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, look, these people are wasting a lot of energy on what's going on, because later this afternoon, it could be lights out for any of us, and none of this mattered.
And if you're in that situation where somebody is facing a lights out moment, you're not arguing about any of that trivial shit. That stuff falls to the wayside so incredibly
not important.
fast.
Yeah.
It couldn't be less important. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I struggle with the same stuff. And that played into, again, from my perspective, that played into the demise of the marriage as well, too. Just the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know how to unpack. I have those moments where I'm thinking about shit where if somebody's like, hey, what are you thinking about? I'd be like, oh, the sunset.
Yeah, you got to lie to him because
I'm not thinking about the sunset.
Yeah, there's no point in me telling you what's really going on up here. So to get back to that, I think a lot of guys in the communities, and women too, in the communities that we're in that go through some unfortunate thing, it's hard to communicate with the significant other if they don't relate, which indeed causes that wedge. And
then I wonder if it would be better if they're from that community. I wonder if it's almost healthier, though, if they're not from that community, because they'd be so similar if they were, that you might get stuck in that ecosystem of only talking about one thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then your identity is derived from that as well.
Yep.
And then you're in a different version of Fucksville.
I see cops that are married to cops, and their relationships are really fucked up because that's all they have to talk about.
I get it. I have some cop buddies. They're like, I need friends who aren't cops. Because if you work with people, what do you talk about when you're hanging out?
Just cop shit, man. Cops are the worst, dude, because when I was a cop, all we did, we talked about the car chases we got in while we're off duty, and it's like, dude, I was there, I know. And I'm like, still, let's talk about it. Just
be like, do you not remember I was actually in the passenger seat with you when that was actually happening?
You were the guy crying over on the Reddit. Yeah, oh, yeah, sorry, I'm pretty that.
As I was flipping through your book, there was a story in there. I believe you were doing CPR and a man's dick was right near your face. How did you breeze over that? Because I randomly came to that page and I was like, hello.
Can't get me out of here without talking about that. All right, so this is a funny story. This is about some of the things we see. In my book, I try to show the serious side of this, but how god-awfully funny it can be at the same time. And
how, in my experience, they can flip back and forth in a nanosecond.
Like a light switch.
Yes.
It's instant, man. So I talk about that story. It has importance for two reasons. One, it was a horrible incident, and we were able to find humor in it. And in our lines of work, that's what we do, right? That's the excuse we make to stay sane. The other part is there was a new guy on the job who had never experienced death, and this was his first death. And this is how we introduced him to it. And then the problem that he had was accepting that this had just happened. And so, again, I went into that old school mindset. Well, you better learn to fucking deal with it and laugh at this shit, or this job will consume you and eat you up. And he learned to deal with it.
That's true.
Because now he's a police officer. He actually went to the law enforcement side after this. Not after that, but several years fire department. And you know who recently called me for help, secretly needing help?
I'm going to guess this guy.
This guy. And he's a supervisor. He's a sergeant. He has a few more years to retirement. And he's like, Travis, I'm fucked up. He goes,
That's the value of you
100%.
talking about
100%.
doing what you're doing. Because if people don't think that their peers or people that they look up to are experiencing the same stuff,
Yep.
they don't know where to go.
Man, I have almost been moved to tears several times because since I've started speaking about this and people are reading the book, either emails, the private messages, just dudes I don't even know. They're like, man, I read your story and it made me realize I need help. And I've had people tell me that it's helped their marriage and stuff like this. Not that I'm the savior. I'm not trying to say that. But what it is it turns a light on saying, hey, maybe you are fucked up and you need to recognize this and you need to take a hard look in the mirror. It's not everybody around you that's wrong. It's us. And we need to accept that. And when we can make ourselves happy and find that peace within, we might be able to find some peace and some success in other aspects of our life, including relationships. So this guy calls me and he tells me, he's like, look, I'm a supervisor. He goes, they're going to take my fucking gun if they think I'm fucked up. He goes, but I can't say anything. I got to keep it quiet. And I told him, I said, you call me anytime. I'll be here. I'll answer this damn phone. You need to see me in person. He lives a couple counties away. I said, I'll get up in the middle of the night and come see you. I was like, you got to take care of your head. You have to. So here's what happened.
Back to the dicks.
Dude, you can't make this up. So we're firemen, and I'm on the job several years. I'd already been to a ton of shitty calls. I'm talking fucking, you name it, suicides, you name it, been there. We catch a call one day, and we're working hard, man. We got our engine company. We're shopping at Old Navy, okay? And
I'm sorry. Let's rewind just a few seconds.
okay.
You're telling me that you parked a fire truck and you are in uniform shopping at Old Navy.
Yeah, so
I can't think of a single situation where that makes sense.
firemen that are listening to this are cracking their asses up laughing because this is what they do. They pretend like they're there walking through the building looking for fire stuff, but they're actually window shopping too.
They're just looking for a nice button down.
Yes. And so I may or may not have grabbed a couple of on sale t-shirts. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So, the radios go off. This lady's having shortness of breath. Holy shit. We put on our superhero capes. We're out the door.
Yep.
I fucking grabbed my t-shirts that I just bought and off the sale rack. We're fucking flying, bro. Fucking engine 323 is rolling. And we go into this this nice neighborhood. It's on a golf course. This is the first fire department I worked for when I got out of the Marine Corps. I was only there 2 years before I went to Charleston. Lady's having shortness of breath. This is going to be an easy call. Been to tons of these. We're going to get there, put her on some O2, get her transported out the fucking door. Pull up, pull the parking brake on the fire engine. We all jump off. Me, the captain, and the new guy jumps out the back. We grab the medical kit. It's got our oxygen in there, and it's got our all of our medical shit. So we run up to the door, ring the doorbell, knock on the doorbell. Guy throws open the door. He's butt naked, and he's got a South African accent. I'm telling you, dude, you cannot make this shit up. I got to paint a picture for you. I locked eyes with the dude, and I couldn't help but to look down real quick to give it like a target glance, right? It was like, what the fuck is going on? He goes, quick, she's in here. Sounded like a disgruntled
Like
Schwarzenegger.
the dude from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Krugerrands.
Hans or whatever his name was.
Hans is from the one with Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah, Hans Gruber. Well, anyway, he sounded like that. So next thing I know, it's asshole to elbows down this hallway. Literally, all I see is this guy's hairy ass and his elbows running down this hallway. I'm looking back at my captain. He's already laughing. We don't know what's going on. The new guy's in the middle, and we turn left. I can paint this picture for you, dude. This was 15 plus years ago. And I can see this entire scene. We turn left into this hallway, so like we button hook into this bad boy, and we all peel off. And as we were approaching this room, I failed to mention, you hear the loudest sexual sounds you've ever heard in your life. I mean, it's fucking loud. So I'm like, oh yeah, we're heading towards a full blown orgy. Here we go. And everybody's still fucking, and we're going to be in the middle of this, like helping this lady. This is cool.
This is going to be a story for the decades.
And I'm going to tell it on Cleared Hot. This is it. So here we go, man. We're rolling in a room, and I look to the right. There's one of them old school, big, boxy, big screens, like a 60-inch, the big fucker.
Yep.
And, dude, there's a dude on there just smashing, going to town. And this woman's howling like a wounded coon dog. Just, I was like, fuck, are we in South Louisiana right now? And then I look on the bed, and I shit you not, this woman is gorgeous. She's laying there. I'll never forget, she was 49 years old, and she was probably the baddest 49-year-old I've ever seen to date. I don't think I've seen a 49-year-old woman compared to this. I was fixated on her breasts. They were obviously fake, and they were beautiful, and her nipples were hard like pencil erasers, right? And she's sitting there. She is very clearly not breathing. And I tell my new guy, I'm like, get her head, and I grab her feet. And as we're pulling her down to the floor, because when you're going to work on somebody, you know you got to have them on a solid surface. She's on
Yeah,
a
if you're
bed.
going to do compressions.
There's sex toys everywhere. I'm literally kicking dildos, plural. Those of you that listen, dildos, out of the way, because I don't want to. We got to clear space. So we start working her. She's got no pulse. She's got no airway.
Fuck.
She's dead, and I'm fucking hammering out compressions. The new guy's got a O2 a BVM, bag valve mask. He's fucking putting air. And you know, Andy, like, I think dudes in these professions, you like develop this sense, and it's like operational security, if you will. You just know, you like have a presence about you. You understand everything that's going on around you.
Something's a touch close.
A touch close.
It's in your personal space.
Yeah, and he just feels uncomfortable. And so I feel this presence behind me off just over my right shoulder. I just know something's there, and I glance over, and I literally have to move my head back because a long dick almost hits me in the lips. The dude is standing over me, hovering, watching me do compressions on this woman. And so I look back to my left, and I tell the captain, I was like, hey, get him out of here. Like, just do something. And so the captain, in his infinite wisdom, grabs a guy just trying to distract him, I guess, and he asks him the most rhetorical question I've ever heard in my life. He goes, sir, I'm about to pee. Sir, what were you doing at the time you recognize this lady having a shortness of breath? That man got mad as shit, dude. While you're hearing moaning going on and all this shit, and I'm looking at her nipples, and he goes, God damn it, we was fucking. And I almost spit all over this lady's body, dude. I'm like dying, and I'm trying. Do you know how hard it is to be professional in this moment? And so I keep target glancing at her tits, and the new guy's seeing me, and I'm like, God damn it, this has got to end soon. So the police come, paramedics come, they get the lady out of there. Well, she expires, all right? She was dead there, but whatever. The cops come back to our station. We're having dinner a few minutes later, and or lunch, whatever we were having, and they come in. They were like, dude, you guys aren't going to believe this. That lady, this is right out of a storybook. The lady's husband was out of town. The dude that fucked her to death was the gardener.
Shut the fuck up.
I will put you in touch with the guys that were on scene to confirm this. You cannot heat a gardener fuck this lady to death in her home while her husband's out of town. You can't. What did man say? If I'm lying, I'm dying.
Awkward conversation when he gets back.
How do you handle that? So
you move.
We're sitting at the table. We're the same way. When they told us that, we're like, holy shit, man. So anyway, I got dudes over there mowing lawn and then just beating that thing. Anyway, we're having dinner, and I just had this urge. I had a Tourette's moment, and new guy sitting to my left, captain sitting where you are, and I just slammed my chair back into the wall and jumped to my feet. I go, God damn it, we was fucking. And the captain spits his food out. I'm fucking howling, laughing, and the new guy got so upset, man. He goes, it was his first day, mind you.
Yeah.
He goes, I can't believe you guys would act like this. That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's loved one.
God.
And she's dead, and you guys are making fun of her. And that's when I went into old school mode. And I said, look, dude, if you can't handle the shit you see here, go ahead and get your shit now and get the fuck out. I told him just like that. And I meant it. And now looking back, the kindler, gentler Travis, I don't know if I should have said something like that. I don't know if I would encourage that type of behavior.
The sentiment was correct.
It is. But what I encourage now is like, hey, when something's bothering one of us, honestly, we need to talk about it and probably not make fun of it the way we do.
Sometimes, well, I tell you what, sometimes I think the comedy and laughter can lead towards a more serious conversation. Whatever gets you to, and sometimes I've actually seen the positive impacts of alcohol when it comes to this. I'm not advocating that people go get shit-faced and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you want to have a beer, and in the act of having a beer, it allows you to open the door to a conversation, then use that.
Yeah, I agree.
But don't get
100%.
blackout drunk and not remember what you talked about. 'Cause
Yeah.
that does absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah, that's completely opposite of what you need to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to explain. I mean,
That's just one story that's in that book. We have some others that are pretty fun.
the book is relatively new, right?
Brand new. It came out May 25th, and I'm excited because I was approached by a couple different publishers, and I really wanted to do this by myself because I didn't want suits involved. And I thought, look, I'm just going to tell my story, and I'm just a guy who barely graduated high school. You know, I don't pretend to be some scholar, some world-renowned author, but the book is kicking ass, dude. And it's because I was able to use my social media platform. That is not huge, but it's not the smallest. And I was able to get the people that know me, who have interacted with me over the years and who have supported me, I was able to get their support, and they've shared it, and they've gotten it in the hands of other people. And it's just doing very, very well for a self-published author with really, I mean, I have some credits in the comedy industry, but not anything to write home about. I mean, just have some cool shit. But it's doing better than I really anticipated, and I couldn't be more proud of that. And the fact that I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
And that's me paying homage to those who really, really support what I do and have helped me get this message out. And when I post about, I've posted messages and black names out like, hey, look, this is from you guys helping out. And I'm talking people off of cliffs because of it, because they just put their eyes in the book, and it flipped a switch in them and made them realize something about their own life. I'm not pretending to be the cure-all, but
A couple weeks ago, I was on Fridays, I'll answer Q&A type stuff, and something came up, and I talked about I talked to a counselor once a week, and to me, it's not a big thing to say that, but I get flooded with direct messages saying, "Hey, thank you for admitting that you speak to a counselor." I was like, "Wow,
exactly, I'm telling you."
yeah." I wish I would have said it earlier. You know, it's
Same here.
To me, the ability to reach, even if it's just an objective, hey man, what the fuck do you think about this? Like, this is pissing me off. Am I coming from this from the correct perspective, or am I out of my mind here? Like, get me back on course. The ability to have somebody that you can talk to like that is fucking huge.
I have a meeting when I get back. I still see someone to this day. I started getting help in 2008, and to this day, I still get help. And it's not that I go in there and cry. I don't lay on a couch. I'm not woe is me shit. It's just it's nice to go in and talk with someone that just will kind of listen to you.
Yeah.
And they don't try to solve all your problems. That's up to me, you know? And so I highly encourage speaking to a professional.
I do
where
too.
I used to denounce it. And I try to tell people that now everywhere I go. I'm like, look, it is okay to not be okay. It's okay to hurt inside, but what's not okay is to be the tough guy, the tough girl, and think you can carry that weight the rest of your life, because I'm going to tell you what, you're going to start a pistol because you can't carry it.
Yeah. And equal to that would be not being okay on the inside and then failing others that are relying upon your performance because you've
100%.
got some fucked up shit going on inside of you.
I think about how I'm cheating my children if I'm not doing the best that I can for me mentally. You know what gets me? What are you on the teams, right? And when I was doing what I did, you guys prided yourself on physical fitness, right?
Of course.
Be the strongest, the fastest, everything you could do, right? And it's very similar to what I used to do. And what we didn't do is make our mind the sharpest tool that we had in the box. And I'm all about that now, right?
It
The
wasn't
muscles,
even addressed back then.
Exactly.
It was gym muscles and show muscles.
That's all that mattered. So when you're going to kick a door, nowadays, you got a guy, let's say if you got a guy who's about to kick the door, right? He's a point man, and his head's all fucked up, but he's got the best muscles in the game. That's not who I want on point.
At all.
At all.
I actually
You
don't
know
want
what?
I don't want
Go
that
back
person
to the
there.
fucking barracks.
Yeah.
And get me somebody that's sharp and focused and laser focused. And that's what when I talked to the FBI SWAT teams, that's what I was telling them. I was like, look, it's cool to be, high speed, low drag and all that, and to look cool and be cool, all that shit. But this up here is what's going to help you and help everybody else around you. And that has to be intact before your fucking biceps.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's more subjective than objective too.
Yeah.
It's, the physical standards, like, hey, to get to this unit, you need to be able to run, swim, push up, pull up, like all the bullshit physical standards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you check that for mental health.
I don't know. And I talk about, you see these police officers that are shot in the line of duty. They go off the job for 6 weeks and they come back. They've had surgery and they're almost like, hey man, high five and welcome back, bro, and all this. But if you check out from mental stress or because you need to decompress and get away, you're actually a black cloud. People kind of look down on that. But why is it okay to go get repaired for a gunshot wound? But when your mind maybe need a little rewiring, why is that looked down upon?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
It should be rewarded and celebrated in exactly the same way.
And it's going to take conversations like this to hopefully eventually get it to that point where it's not frowned upon as much.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of them too.
A lot.
And again, the same thing is, when people are talking about defunding the police and how it might draw the wrong people into the community, which will be a cultural shift, that shit takes time. We're talking years of conversations like this.
Tons.
So, what do you guys got after Montana? I know you're here for a bit.
Let's see. I fly back Friday, back to Charleston, and then I have shows. So all of my shows, I had shows scheduled from March through the rest of the year.
COVID's not going to play that shit.
No, not at all, bro. You got to get canked.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to rebook stuff. So I have a bunch of Florida work coming up. I have Greenville, South Carolina coming up. I'm staying
in Florida.
I know, right?
They're out of their goddamn mind.
But so I have a feeling my rug's about to get pulled out again. So I have a couple of virtual conferences I have to speak to.
I'm doing one next week as
Really?
well. It's the first time.
Are we doing the same one?
Maybe. You get to go first.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I'll be like, it's just whatever Travis said.
And I'll
That's
be like, I peed on his stomach.
And we would never get booked again. People
Never.
are like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
Right. So, man, I've had a blast out here, though. I'm going to tell you, so in all of my travels, I've never bought as many T-shirts in one state as I have in Montana.
I noticed you're wearing a Whitefish Montana shirt.
Dude, I have so many T-shirts from Montana. When I go home, I could clothe the homeless, and they would think that we have refugees from Montana coming. My kids, too.
They wouldn't want to be here after the month of November.
No, y'all can fucking have it then, because I'm taking it right now, though. Dude, we're having dinner at 10 o'clock the other night with the sunshades on. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I did a show in Anchorage, Alaska 9 years ago. And this is the first time I'd experienced this. It was 3 a.m. The promoter drug us to this adult establishment afterwards. I didn't want to go.
Of course.
Kicking and screaming the whole way. And I happened to be the first guy through the door, kicking and screaming. So the Bush Company, have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it.
It's actually
Never been.
Supposedly a famous adult entertainment place, but it was very nice, and that's the last time I'd ever been to one. But after these shows in Anchorage, Alaska, we leave and we come out, and the fucking sun was still up, and I had glasses on. I was like, man, this is kind of cool. But I don't think I could do your winters. It's very short-lived with sunlight, right?
Very short-lived, and it comes up late in the day and it goes down early, like 4:35 p.m. in the peak or middle of the wintertime.
I almost made a very, very inappropriate. Comes up late and goes down early.
Don't make those comments.
Keeping this very politically correct.
It's good. Where can people find you to support you?
Man, so it's just my name. My name is Travis Howze, Howze. You can go to my website, Travis Howze, or it's Funny Under Fire. They both link to the same place. Here's the crazy part. I'm on Instagram, same thing, Travis Howze. Facebook, Travis Howze, same thing. I quit comedy 3 years ago, right? And I started flipping houses because I was on the road so much. Right? Here, this is crazy, right? I was on the road so much that it was the wedge that was already in my little family's life. It was getting even bigger because I was never home. Yeah. I remember doing an overseas tour for the troops in Japan, watching my kid on FaceTime, and I thought, I don't want to be that dad. So I came home and quit comedy, and I was utterly fucking miserable. I didn't realize how special comedy was to me. It's like if you walked away from skydiving, and then
it's the outlet that works best for you.
So what I did is I put on this mask at home, and I tried to pretend to be happy, and I was flipping houses, and I was empty inside. And I got to the point, we didn't talk about this, but for time's sake, I got to a point where I found myself in the truck in the middle of the Francis Marion National Forest in South Carolina, where I live, with a gun in my hand, about to blow my brains out for the second time, because I didn't have that outlet, that one thing that made me feel right. And something happened in that moment. I won't say what it is, but it was a little glimpse of hope, and it made me smile. And that made me realize I need to go back to being happy. I felt a little piece of joy inside of my heart, and I said, I got to get back. I thought I was drained of all joy, so I went back to comedy, and then that morphed into speaking, and that's where the doors got blown off on talking about all this. I started doing it, and I started seeing the effect it was having. I was like, wow, I was holding all this in, trying to protect myself, but I was actually keeping others from this knowledge that I have. And in a sense, that kind of felt selfish. So I started talking about it more. And it morphed into this thing. So in that 3 years, to get back to your question where people can find me, I deleted all my fan pages. I had a really good-sized fan page, and then I deleted it. And
Real good fucking job, Travis.
do you know how hard this shit is to build?
I don't pay attention to it, but
It is fucking... If you're not a fucking household name, this shit is so hard to build. And I don't want to be putting out corny shit all the time. So I just kind of promote shows, put my story out there. I talk about my book sales, and I do funny pictures of me every once in a while with my family and shit. But trying to rebuild it, I was like, motherfucker, if I wouldn't have deleted all this, because I thought I was done, and now I'm not done. So I'm trying to rebuild that. So anybody listening, if you could give me a follow on Instagram, give me a push, I really appreciate it. And I'd hope to cross paths with everybody one day. And same on Facebook, likes and follows, because I can't do what I do without.
yeah, you got to have a willing participant.
I really do, and it takes a little team here. And just because we don't know one another personally doesn't mean we can't make a difference and can't help other people.
You know what doesn't really exist in Montana, to my knowledge, or at least here, is a good comedy place.
I'd never even got close to Montana. I know in Idaho there's a few spots, but my travels, the closest I got was Kennewick, Washington.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, Whitefish, where you guys were the other day when we were checking in, Cal. I don't think there's a comedy place here,
Not that I know of.
which sucks.
Yeah. Need it, man. Need
I was
some
gonna
jokes.
say,
You should start one.
Fuck, dude, I'm not a comedian. I'm just a fucking moron.
No, man.
I don't think I could do it. I would just say the most wildly inappropriate shit that I find hilarious, and people would probably be appalled by.
You'd be surprised at the people who have got a wonderful platform for doing that same exact thing.
Well, I guess if you're a comedian, you get a little bit of a pass on being inappropriate because people are actively seeking that inappropriateness.
Bro, with comedy now, I love comedy, but I like speaking even more because with me it has there's meaning to it.
Yeah.
Versus me going on stage telling some dick jokes. Fuck all y'all.
I like teaching. That's
Yeah.
why I like public speaking. I literally have sat there when I will see the light
It's cool.
metaphorically flip on in somebody's head, and they'll like furiously start scribbling. And there's been a few occasions where I'll go find that person afterwards because I'm just curious. Like,
This
what?
guy's a dick.
I've actually seen that too. Like, they're just drawing like this massive dong. I'm like, this is an excellent, veiny, triumphant bastard. Make sure you know.
Oh, that's
like,
great.
put a helmet on that thing.
Hell yeah.
But I'll go find it. Like, what was it and what clicked for you? And it's just I don't know. I think we all probably are a product of our experiences.
Yeah.
But to be able to pass those on, that to me is powerful. And I found out a few years, actually, when I was a BUD/S instructor, I realized that I enjoyed teaching because you could see the impact it can have on other people.
Yeah.
It's rewarding. It's enjoyable. And I mean, I hope the world goes back to a place where, I mean, fuck,
It's
my
scary,
world
right?
turned off in like March
Yeah.
when it came to that. In a 72-hour time period that was like, we are going to have to postpone / cancel forever.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is.
I remember messaging you about this. You're like, dude, bro, I don't know when we can do this because COVID. And I was like, fuck, I can't even get on a fucking podcast because of this shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is a crazy world, man. Well, I'm glad you made it up here.
No, man, thank you for having me. It's been phenomenal. I'm really enjoying myself, and it's great to be able to sit down and actually have the conversation.
We'll do round 2, but we have to each do our 5 best dick jokes. We'll have to scribble them down and compare.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. I'll come up with a couple.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate
Cool, man.
it.
Thank you, brother.